You know, it's not so easy. People want evidence and proof. They're not using their intuition and common sense, because the kind of evidence that people want is out of our hands. You know, we don't have the means. That doesn't mean that we don't know.
You mean the kind of evidence isn't portrayed and spoken about by the mainstream media?
Well, no. What I mean is, yeah, probably that as well. But in order to provide evidence that, like, the bored earthers want, like,
well, the reality is 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 unless the mainstream media says it does.
Yeah, but it does though. If you have one object and another object, you now have two objects. Yeah.
Oh, it does, but in the brainwashed minds of the masses, unless the government and mainstream media and, you know, the education system doesn't agree with it, it doesn't exist in reality.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
Thankfully.
But, I mean, it's like a lot of these bald earthers, I think they do believe in flat earth, but they're the kind of people who want tangible, concrete, you know, evidence where they can say, they can show their friends or their peers.
I don't know, I've heard a lot, I've been in a lot of conversations with a lot of balls, and they seriously believe all the bullshit, and it's so sad because they're all looking at me like, oh, this dumb cunt, and it's just
no. What I mean is, hold on. What I mean is, yeah, born earthers out there will believe in the born, right?
They really believe it.
Well, hold on. Let me finish.
Sorry.
I'm saying that the born earthers out there, you know, in the so-called real world, will believe in a born, right? That's fine. I'm talking about the born earthers that come here. The born earthers that are here day in, day out, night after night. They are looking for something from us. Like, what have you got? What can you do? How can you provide? Because they keep asking the question, show us your model. So that means, what that means is that they're not 100% sure about their reality, their worldview, right? And that. Just look at that. This is from my perspective. When I look at that the born earthers that come here, just to argue, it seems strange that they're here. For me, they don't believe in their born 100%. They just are waiting for someone like, you know, a flat earther to bring in. That's what they're here for. It's like the news. What do they have today? You know, they watch flat earth videos. They're interested in the subject. Okay, so imagine, you know, schools and universities and colleges were to, you know, come to this knowledge that people are questioning the born. They would have doubt. Where there is doubt, okay, people will always seek and continue to find out and want to know what's going on. And that's exactly what's happening right here, right now. And this is how we know that we have some agents involved, because, you know, a lot of them are showing high resistance. You know, I mean, even when you present, there's people banging their heads against walls here, showing them evidence, showing them proof, showing them how things work, basically trying to plead to come together to come to some kind of conclusion, but they're just resisting, right? There's a resistance. So that in itself shows there's something in it, yeah? And so, yeah, that's where we're at.
A lot of people are heavily invested in this resistance because they've you know, got their high school you know, bloody indoctrinated lies or higher education what they believe in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's hard to get back from that. Like, believing in the lies, especially higher education within like theoretical physics and many things like that. It's hard to be like, well, it's all bullshit, and I've been taught lies. and my whole existence is fraudulent because.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the people that come into the fold, into the collective. Yeah, here that are with us. People that join these flat Earth rooms, the born Earthers. They don't truly believe in a board, otherwise they wouldn't be here. So they have two. There's a few reasons. You find it funny, but you don't find the same joke. Like if I told you, why did the chicken cross the road? And you were like, I don't know. And I told you, get to the other side. You might say, that's quite funny. But if I told you again and again and again, you would say, all right, Chemo, no more jokes now. It's not funny anymore, right? So the joke is that if this is a joke to them, that we find flat Earth, we find the Earth to be flat. Aha, very funny. But they come back to listen to that joke time and time again. So there has to be reasons for that.
It's so butthurt and they're so offended that we actually believe in this in their viewpoint.
No, I don't think it's that. It's not. The offense comes from, because look, they think they're intelligent. They think they have knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah, they think they know how the world works better than somebody who hasn't been spending or wasting their time at university, right? So they would say, well, I've studied, I have a degree, diploma, so I know more than you. That's what the system tells us, okay?
Bingo.
Yeah, so when someone like myself or yourself tries to tell them, but it's not true what you've been learning, it's all false, then this obviously is going to cause, you're going to destroy a person's livelihood, lifestyle. Exactly, that person is destroyed. He'll be left with nothing. Yes, if you put all your energy into something and somebody takes it away from you, you are nobody. You are nothing. And the person who's told you becomes something. And they want to prevent that. They want to prevent people who use their intelligence, as in intuition and senses. They want to eradicate those people. Like we have no place in this society. Yes, and this is what they're up against. They're up against people who see how things work without destroying it. Like, most people, when you're a child, you like to destroy the car, break up, a fire engine, see how it works, put it back together, whatever. And, some people can figure out how things work without actually having to do all that. And they want to know why. They're very interested in why. And it's like they can't answer that why. So that's the problem for them.
And the sad thing about the authoritative model, the simplest things are so easy to understand. Like I was on a chat on Earth discussions. I was trying to explain how gravity doesn't exist, and we're essentially grounded because the air around us we weigh more than it, so it's so obviously apparent how it works. And there's no universal up and down. There's a real up and down. And they were going on and on about absolutely garbage. It's like you've been so indoctrinated that you're one the most complicated, most contrived bullshit answer is the real one. But you've got to look at it in simple terms, and that's the real answer. And it's right in front of their eyes, and they think they're so intellectual, and they can't even see it. It's like talking to children. Like it's unbelievable how smart they think they really are, and how dumb they really are. It's I can't. Sometimes I can't stand it.
And really if they want an explanation on why things fall to the ground. For me, a flat Earth, that still needs to be explained in terms of science. For the general man, who cares? What goes up comes down. It's not a big deal. It's normal. It's common sense. Yeah, what goes up must come down. But to the scientist, he wants to understand that force. What is that force? See, they like to deal with forces. Like, what is the cause of
magical
something?
Forces.
Yeah, but that's what they're trying. That's what they can't answer these things. They don't know the force of any given thing, and that's their problem. Okay.
Because the whole world and universe is based on gravity, and that doesn't exist. So they can't contextualize a reality, and it's so sad, man. They think I'm an idiot, and I'm just like, oh boy, like it's so fucking sad. It's not funny, man. They're so brainwashed. It's actually sad.
it is sad, but it's also interesting. Like the mindsets, like it's resilient. When somebody sets their mind to something, it's very difficult. Somebody's set in their ways. So for me, that's very interesting. Someone who is very dedicated, because obviously, from my point of view, I see it that they see it that we've never believed in a ball. They don't understand that everybody, understood the ball mechanics, physics, whatever they told us. Nobody argued with that. And all of a sudden, it's like we've seen the light. And because we've seen the light, again, it's like, well, these guys are supposed to have the knowledge. So how can someone like, myself or yourself recognize it before them? That's all we're up against. That is it. That's it. We're not up against, is it a ball? Is it flat? That's been proven. There was no spinning ball. They cannot, if they had real proof of a spinning ball, they would show us overnight without a problem.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and there's no evidence of curve or motion, and they can't seem to get that around their heads. It's like
so that's why I don't get frustrated in this paradigm, because as long as the people, you're telling people, like anyone with common sense will use their common sense, right? So I'm not arguing with, say, someone like Thor's or Steve to prove to actual Steve. I'm not trying to prove to Steve or to Thor's. You speak for the people who are thinking, who are not sure, they're confused about this. How could it be? Is it possible? And people just want to hear the possibilities. Yeah, so I was speaking with someone about this, about the island thing, right? And I was saying,
I listened to.
Yeah, but no, this is off air. This was someone else. I was saying,
okay.
Yeah, about the same thing, but I was basically going on a bit further, and I was saying, so what would it mean then if you could see those islands, right? And a lot of ballers has refused to answer that. Right, they refuse to answer. Well, if those calculations are correct, that you can see those islands and it's not refraction, it's not a trick of the eye, what does it mean? Right? They want to tell you something. Oh, well, there must be an error. There must be a mistake. There was something wrong here, and they won't admit that if this guy has done everything right, then it would mean that the Earth is flat. Right? But a lot of them don't say this. They refuse to say it. They don't want to entertain the idea. I mean, you entertain any idea. People entertain aliens, for goodness sake. You entertain all kinds of things just for the sake of entertainment. So they should humor us. Okay, if it was flat, then this would have to happen. This would have to happen, and this, and this. They don't do that. They just dismiss it.
The reality is basically made up of false assumptions, really.
Right.
And this bloke in chat.
And you're absolutely right. And you know what happens? A lot of these people, they end up saying the most ridiculous things, the most.
and they don't realize it.
Yeah, they don't even realize what they're saying. Right? Their heads is so fried or fraggled that they just like. I was speaking with this one guy. I don't know if it was by the time, and I said to him, "Well, why can't we have video or photo of the Earth?" He says, we can't see far enough. We can't see that distance, that kind of thing. I had to educate this guy that we can see billions and trillions of miles into space, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a big issue for that satellite that can see trillions and billions of light years away into space to just turn around or just have a camera on the other side or whatever, and look at the Earth. They act like this is the hardest thing to do. We're modern technology that that they should have. That is what is frustrating, I think, is that they try to deceive people that we just don't have the technology yet. We're not capable. Well, maybe you're not capable.
We've said any excuse will do.
Any excuse will do. Like,
any excuse is hilarious.
And that's what I'm saying. They come up with the most ludicrous excuses of why, we don't need to know. Man doesn't want to know. They've done enough. Why should they prove to you? like it's to me personally they're trying to prove to. It should be to the guy who says that question. You know, why should they want to prove to you? What about to you? Because you're satisfied with the best evidence that they provide. Some people are just not satisfied with that. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. And, you know, they seem to get away with a lot. They get away with a lot. And this is why, you know, I come here from time to time, because a lot of these ball earthers, they get away with, you know, saying everything and anything just to divert and just change the course of direction. Okay? And a lot of flat earthers who are kind of on the fence, you know, they can easily fall to this peer pressure. Easily. You know, if you've got a weak mind and a weak spirit, you can be easily turned, easily. And, you know, I like to think that, you know, I looked at this properly. I would never have come out and said such wild things if I thought it was a ball still. You know, I truly thought it was a ball. We were spinning. I didn't question it until it was brought to my attention. You know, people bring information to your attention. You know, it's like, look at this. People are saying, you know, and of course you say it's ridiculous. It's normal. People say, no, look at this. Have a look more at this. Have a look more at this. And then you come to the conclusion. And if you can't get the evidence from NASA, and, you know, the thing that annoys me, there's loads of things in this movie that annoys me. They rely on China. America relies on China or Japan or wherever it is for proof and evidence. They say, look at the Himawari. This is ridiculous. This is the last place.
Russia would have exposed the moon landings by now. It's fucking ridiculous.
Absolutely.
They're all in it.
They say Russians would expose. Nobody in America believes they went to the moon. People in Russia, the people on the ground, don't believe America went to the moon. So when they talk about expose what? Nobody. If you ask any Russian person, they don't believe that America went to the moon. You know, they think it's a big hoax. So I don't know, you know, where these exactly they say things, just they don't know what they're saying. They've lost their mind, right?
Yep.
And that, you know, you'd want the first woman on the moon. You'd want the first, you know, black, the first Chinese, the first Irishman, the first Frenchman on the moon. You'd want all this. The first tourist, yeah?
Yep.
And they kind of brush it off like, no, nobody wouldn't want the first woman on the moon. Nobody wants to see that, you know, come on. You know, the youngest person on the moon, the oldest person on the moon. So many records to break. We thrive on record breaking. Yes, the highest, the fastest, the strongest. You know, to be the best, number one. That's all we do. That's all we concentrate. And you're telling me that we don't want the first person, the first woman, you know, children on the moon. Children, teenage astronauts, they would want this. If it was possible, they would do this, right? And they'll say anything, do anything just to protect.
If you went to the moon, like, you know, 50, 60 years ago, by today's standards, we would have had bloody teenagers on the moon by now, 100%.
Definitely, but exactly. If we had continued, you know, from when we said we went to the moon, we would be in Mars. We would be on Mars by now. Absolutely, there would be no problem, be no issue. In fact, they would have gone to Mars ages ago, a long time ago. And you know, again, these things, you know, increase the thought that everything is just a hoax and a lie. You know, you kind of think, well, what is true? And then you get people, these ball earthers, like, how do you know you are true? How do you know China exists? These are just so ridiculous. You know, how can people compare? Do you think China is real? How do you know China exists? Because you haven't been there. And things like that. These arguments, they go nowhere.
Exactly. But they'll hold on to their fancy as long as they can.
but the numbers are increasing. I was looking at some of the videos that, you know, they're starting to get like 200,000 standard now. You know, 300,000, 100,000. They're in the hundreds of thousands standard and that, yeah. And people are becoming more and more. It just the problem is now just where is it going to go? Because you can only you know, repeat the same information until we get new information. You know, and like I said, we do have people out there. People are so passionate about this, and they will find the truth. It's just, can they? It's like advertisement, isn't it? Advertisement. Do they have the resources, the funding, the sponsoring to get the word out there? That's all. That's all that needs to happen. Is getting the word out there. Is YouTube?
Can they get past their sci-fi space fantasy? Can they get past their sci-fi space fantasy?
The sci-fi, yeah, right, exactly. See, so I mean, we're at the forefront of this. You know, that's what's good to know, is that, you know, we were the ones that were keeping the light, holding that light, shining that light. For those who are afraid, you know, people are actually afraid to speak about this because of what comes with it. You lose your family, your friends, you lose your job. You know, people will think you're insane. People think that you're crazy and that. You know, nobody wants to be associated with crazy people like that. You know, and we're at the front of that. We're at the forefront. They'll be like, who were the guys who were speaking about this? What was happening? Like, they would say, these guys were so brave, you know, amongst all these so-called haters, you know, and deniers. You guys were brave, you know, and we would inspire those who are afraid, you know, afraid to speak up. Absolutely, that's, you know, that's what will happen. People have inspired me to speak up, and that's what needs to be done. How did you finally feel confident? You know, when did you think enough is enough? I know it's flat.
I guess enough research. You know, enough. You know.
But when you knew, you didn't. Did you just start speaking about it?
I'd say probably 3 years ago. I probably knew. Speaking about it, probably the same.
Just started speaking about it, no matter what anybody said.
Yep. Well, I mean, I convinced me best mate, which is really fantastic. And now he's full hardcore flat earther, which is great.
Yeah, like I say, it's not difficult really to convince an honest person, you know, somebody who has no agenda, you know, and I think that's the problem they have. As soon as it comes out, as soon as you speak to anybody and give them the right information, because they're going to have questions. If you answer every question, obviously there are some things that you won't know, but most things can be answered, right?
Exactly. And you would hope that there is paid shields, because if there isn't paid shields, it'll mean there's a lot of stupid people out there, and a lot of loss in you know, faith in humanity. That's for sure.
Let Mark on. There is a lot of stupid people. Let Mark on. Let Mark out.
Here comes retard number one.
Unhide Mark.
Yeah, I don't know if he's here, Cameron.
Yeah, you're there now. Yeah, that's it. There you are. Yeah, so Mark's another one who needs, you know, assistance in understanding how the world works.
only coming to the show Christmas.
But you see, Mark is a good example. Mark is a good example.
Nice days, isn't it?
Mark is a good example of somebody who believes what we say, but he needs something more.
But he loves his CNN and Fox News.
No, because
Kim, I had to come in because I heard you say something that was quite profound, I think. And I thought I'd have to go in and say something about this. Because you said that there's satellites up there that can see for millions and billions of miles away. Why don't they just put a camera on the other side of it to take a picture of the Earth or turn it around? Did I hear you right?
Yeah, yes. Why they don't do that?
So what's Himawari 8 doing?
What are you talking about Himawari 8 for? That's not.
Well,
that's
no,
not,
it's a 9 now. I think it's Himawari 9. I think
Yeah, let's talk about our technology. We're the most advanced in the world.
Obviously, we're not, are we? Because Japan's got a satellite taking a picture of the Earth, but you want to deny
I
that.
think
When you just said, why don't they turn the thing around and take a picture of the Earth? There's a satellite up there dedicated to taking a picture of half the Earth every 10 minutes, but you want to deny that.
Yeah, but that's not real. That's not real. It's not denying it. It's not real.
Oh, so you say, why don't they turn the camera around or turn the satellite around and take a picture of the Earth? And now there is one taking a picture up there. You just say, oh, that's fake. You think that's an honest position to have, Kimo?
Of course it is, because it's not real.
Mark, it's easy to lie to you, mate. It's easy to lie to you.
It is, Scotty.
Very.
You're in Australia, Scotty, yeah?
Yes.
Right, I watched.
Right, no, hold up, Kimo, because we've got someone in Australia. Right, so it's your summer now, Scotty, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
No, it's their winter. They're still in December.
No, it's their summer.
It's summer. It's summer.
Well, it's December.
Yes, their summer is 6 months longer
so they
in a different.
July.
Yeah, because they're on the other side of the globe, Kimo. Don't you realise that?
It's snowing in July, Scotty.
No rules.
No, it's summer. It's definitely summer.
No. Do you have snow in July?
Well, only certain parts of Australia has snow. It's quite hot usually most of the time.
Yeah, when do you have? Which countries have snow, and when do you have?
I wouldn't have a clue because
cities, not countries, cities. Which cities?
I wouldn't have a clue. I've never seen
I don't think any cities in Australia have snow. The high places might do.
Yeah, there is some snow, but it's pretty sparse. I've never personally ever touched snow in my life.
You've never seen? Have you ever seen snow?
Never seen or touched it.
That's crazy.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think any places get snow in Australia, do they, Scotty?
Oh no, some places do, but it's very remote.
Well, I'm going to Google snow in Australia and have a look now.
I think high places might get it. I'm not sure if any town has it. I might be wrong. But how many at the height of your summer, Scotty? At the height of your summer, i.e., midway between the summer length, how many hours of sun do you get a day?
Jesus. Well, right now, the sun's going down at about 10 o'clock. 9-10 o'clock.
So what's that, about 18 hours?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy right now.
Right, so Kimo, if Australia's getting 18 hours of sun,
right,
how does the sun get from there, Australia, on a flat Earth, and give us 8 hours of sun in the winter? Because if it's in the sky in Australia for 18 hours,
we get the sun. We can see the moon.
Kimo, can I just finish my point, please? If it's in the sky for 18 hours in Australia, then there's only fucking 6 hours left in the day. So there's not even 8 hours for the sun to get back to us and give us 8 hours of sun. So how does that work?
The sun would speed up. What are you on about?
Oh, so now you're saying that when has anyone reported on the Earth, they've looked at the sun in the daytime and see it speed up?
Yeah, it must do.
Well, it doesn't, Kimo, does it? Not one person has ever reported
that. How do you know it doesn't?
Because someone had fucking noticed it. What do you mean? So you're telling me if you look up in the sky and you see the sun zipping across the sky, no one's going to say nothing about that? Come on, Kimo, for fuck's sake. Scotty, have you ever seen the sun zipping across the sky?
On meth.
Yeah, on tripping, you must hardly seen about 4 suns, Scotty.
No, but to be honest, looking up there, it's
well, Scotty, you answer it then. How does that work, Scotty? Because we know that the sun, when the sun's in the sky in Australia, it's dark in the UK.
Well,
so how does it give you 18 hours of sunlight?
The sun must change speed. That's the only thing.
It doesn't fucking change speed. Give me one account of that happening, Kimo.
We don't know what the sun is. Nobody knows.
So no one watches the sun, Kimo. Is that what you're telling me now? No one looks at the sun.
Yeah, I'm saying nobody. We're only here in England. We don't do observations all around the flat Earth.
What are you on about? I've took pictures of the sun during the day, Kimo. I can guarantee you it doesn't speed up.
Yeah, it's probably a different speed in Australia than it is to here.
Oh, fuck off.
Well, the reality is, looking up there doesn't prove that down here there's curve or there's motion. So,
yeah, but Scotty, how does it stay in the sky for 18 hours? There's only 6 hours left in the day, Scotty.
You're acting like we're scientists, Mark.
He's got to travel all the way from Australia. He's got to travel all the way to Australia, back in time, 2 hours, to give us 8 hours of daylight in the UK.
Well, you're not a scientist. You wouldn't know that.
I'll tell the sun can
so I don't know it gives us 8 hours of sun in the daylight. Is that what you're saying now, Kimo?
No, I'm saying you don't know how the sun works. Nobody knows how the sun works.
Well, we do. Scientists do know how the sun works. And no one's ever said, Kimo. No one has ever said it zips across the sky.
Listen, we don't know how the sun, we don't know what's powering the sun. We don't know, we can't really make good observations.
Well, give me one account then. Give me one account of anyone saying, I see the sun zip across the sky. Can you give me that then, please?
What do you mean zip across the sky?
Well, you're saying it goes faster, so someone must have
it probably goes higher then. Higher and,
Well, what's higher got to do with faster? That give it
because if it goes higher...
If it went higher, it'd have to go further to travel, wouldn't it, Kimo?
No, it covers more ground, so it can go in shorter increments.
What are you on about? If it goes higher, it's got to do more distance.
As a scientist, I'm not a scientist, so you're asking the wrong person.
Well, exactly, and the scientists never say the sun.
No, they're scientists are liars.
Or goes higher up, Schemo. So what scientists are you on about?
Already that those scientists are liars, and everything in the textbooks are lies. Kent Hovind has already proved that. He went to jail.
Point me to a scientist then. Point me to a scientist that says the sun goes higher up and it also goes faster across the sky. I'm going to go on mute for 30 seconds. I'm going to go on mute for 30 seconds for you to produce that evidence then.
Well, no, because these things are up in the air. They're up for discussion because they won't tell us the truth. That's the whole point. We don't know how the sun makes it from there to there, but there obviously is a reason, and the scientists are not telling us for a reason. That's the reason.
See, Mark, what you need to understand, if say the Earth is flat, which we do believe, then the lie is so big that how can we know how the sun and moon work yet? You know what I mean? Like we're still trying to figure that out.
Quite easily, Scotty. How old are you?
27.
27. In your 27 years, have you ever seen the sun go faster in one part of the day than another part?
I haven't personally measured it. I haven't thought about it.
Right. Have you ever heard anyone else say that has?
Right. I just said we don't know. Who knows if it goes higher?
Chemo, don't you understand this? There's people that spend their entire lives watching the sun, you fucking idiot. If it was going faster, if it was going faster in parts of the days than other parts, it wouldn't that'd be reported.
Yes, but you have no one reports the midnight sun unless you actually research.
Well, it must be light somewhere on a flat Earth, Chemo, mustn't it?
Nobody would know about the 24 hours.
It must be light somewhere on the Earth.
24 hours sun, the midnight sun, unless you actually research properly.
Chemo. So now you're saying then on a flat Earth that at one point in the night there's no sun anywhere on the whole flat Earth. So you're saying the whole flat Earth is in darkness?
Half at the time.
Well, so the sun is always in the sky somewhere on a flat Earth, isn't it? For that to happen, it must be in the sky. So half the time it's in the sky, half the world sees it. The rest of the time it's in the sky, the other half of the world sees it. So everyone that is always under watch. So if it was moving faster, then it wouldn't be fucking... People would notice that, wouldn't they?
Well, I've just said then, hasn't I? I said it goes up. And then it must change size as well.
But it doesn't change size. That's another thing that it doesn't do, Kimo. Why are all these things that you supposedly say it does, that it doesn't?
Because how do you explain it on a flat Earth?
Well, it can't be. That's what I'm saying. It can't be explained, Kimo.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, the weakness of your model, Kimo.
My project is that
it's the weakness of your model, Kimo. Nothing can be explained.
Well, then there must be another answer then.
Yeah, it is. We live on a globe, Kimo.
No, that's not the answer.
Why?
I live on a globe pretty far-fetched.
You don't like it.
Not because I don't like it, because it's not a ball, it's not spinning, so there has to be
Well, it is a ball and it is spinning, chemo, so take your medicine. Take your medicine, son.
That's the wrong answer, Mark. If you think that you're spinning...
if it's the wrong answer, why does everything work on the globe model then, chemo?
It doesn't work.
Why can we explain...
It really doesn't.
We explain the 18 hours of sunlight in Australia?
No,
we
as
still get 8 hours
said, there were different models, and they tried to look for the best one.
So right, then, so we just chalk that down to you don't know how it works on a flat Earth, then?
No, I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Well,
Mark,
can
do
you
you
point me
like
to one scientist who does it, then, please?
Science should deal with technology, and that's it.
So you can't point me to one scientist. Why are the flat Earth scientists stupid?
No, the ball earthers.
If the flat Earth scientists aren't stupid, why can't one of them explain reality, Kima?
And cost their job.
They can. It's just that they wouldn't be represented by the mainstream media.
Can you point me to one scientist then, Scotty, that
tells
me how the sun works on a flat Earth model, please? How you get 18 hours in Australia and we still get 8 hours in the UK? We're on the other side of the world.
It goes higher, Mark. It goes higher.
And if you go higher, what will that mean to me getting closer?
The higher you go, the more you cover more.
If you go higher, Kimo, you don't get closer to something by going higher.
No, you cover more land with light, is what I'm saying.
How do you?
You only need light, sunlight. Sometimes there's sunlight, but you don't see the sun.
So you're saying that? How? Yeah, but how is it in the sky? I'm not talking about light. I'm talking about sky. Actually,
I'm talking about light.
You're saying the sun is massive, then, Kimo?
I'm talking about the light. So the light.
No, it doesn't work like that, Kimo.
Yes, it does. It's not about the actual sun.
What are you about, Kimo, look out the window. I can see the fucking sun, you idiot. I can see the sun, you idiot. So it's
I've just got you, Mark. I've just got you.
What are you on about?
It's not about the act. It's about the light and how much light.
Well, so you're saying now then the 18 hours that Scotty sees the sun, it's not actually the sun that's in the sky. It's just light.
Sunlight. Yes, sunlight.
Right. So where's the sun now then, Kimo?
In the sky.
What sky?
What do you mean, what sky? We've only got one sky.
Okay, so it's in the sky in the UK, yeah?
Yeah, but not everybody.
Is it in the sky? Is it in the sky in Australia?
No.
Right, how many hours of daylight will we get?
So that now is zipping.
So how many hours of daylight will we
Hold on.
get
In order for Australia to see that now, if it's winter now in Australia, like you said, the sun will be far away.
It's not. It's summer. It's summer in Australia.
Oh yeah, summer. Sorry. If it's summer there, they won't. Well, the sun here now is further from us than it is in the summer. So when we have our summer, it's closer to us.
It wasn't even nothing what I was talking about, Kimo. How many hours of sunlight do we get?
Now we must have about. Well, it depends where you are, right? If you're down south, then you'll have less. Then if you're in the north, sorry, you'll have less than if you're down the south.
Right. So how many then in the UK?
Well, like I said, it depends.
So you don't know how many hours of daylight we have in the UK?
It depends, doesn't it?
Well, it depends on what?
Well, it's different. Like I say, if I was.
Well, so you're telling me that someone in London has a considerably more amount of time in daylight than someone, say, in Scotland?
In Scotland, they will have less. They will have, we will get more light down the south than they will have up north.
How much more light?
I don't know, a little bit measurable.
Well, of course, it must be fucking measurable. If it's more, it must be measurable.
Yeah, I don't know how much more.
What, minutes more?
I'm not a scientist, man.
No considerable amount of time then, because that would be noticeable, wouldn't it? Because, say, for instance, the sun was set at 7 in Scotland, and then in, say, London, it didn't set till midnight. You'd notice that. People would notice that.
At 7 o'clock in London,
people would notice that,
would be lighter than 7 o'clock in Scotland.
Right, so we've established that you don't know anything about how daylight works in the UK, Kimo.
Yeah, it would be.
Right. So you're very astute there, Scotty, when you said there's loads of stupid people about. I gather you do know how the sun works and daylight works in Australia, Scotty, yeah?
Light distribution, man. That's what it's all about. It's about light.
You don't know how daylight works in Australia either, Scotty. Is that what you're telling me now?
It's always darker in Scotland than it is down south.
So, because Chemo's just proved he don't know how it works in the UK, and he's past 18 years of age. So, for 18 years of age, he's been walking around with his eyes shut. You're 27, you said, didn't you, Scotty?
Yes.
Well then, Scotty. So, what happens when the sun goes out of the sky, Scotty?
Pardon?
What happens when the sun goes out of the sky in Australia? What happens?
Well, it keeps going around the Earth. What do you think happens?
What happens to the sky, Scotty? What time of day do we call that?
Watch it on
Chemo, can't you be quiet for 2 seconds while I ask Scotty a question? I mean, you say you teach people. Would you have this in your class? Someone quit interrupting the teacher.
Well, we're not with students now.
Well, you are. We are. I'm trying to teach you, Chemo, and it's obvious you need a lot to learn. You don't even know how the daylight works in your own country, Chemo.
No, you don't know how.
Scotty, what time of day do we call it when the sun goes out of the sky?
What do you mean? Sunset, you mean?
No, because the sun's still in the sky, isn't it? What happens when the sun goes? Or you don't want to say, look, Chemo, I'm going to have to send you out of the room in a minute.
Goodness sakes.
Can you just be quiet for 30 seconds while I ask him a question? It's not hard, is it?
Go on.
So what happens when the sun goes? You can't see the sun no more. We won't call it a sunset because obviously it don't set on a flat plane. What happens to the sky, and what time of the day do we call that, Sky?
Dusk.
What happens to the sky, Chemo? I'm gonna have to ring your mum up.
For goodness sake, get on with it, man. Come on.
Oh, I can't help it. He's being awkward and a bit slow, isn't he? You can understand that. I have to try and coax it out of him. He doesn't want to say it because he exposes his model. Now, just let him carry on, please. Now, what happens to the sky, Scotty?
What do you mean? When the sun's moving away?
What happens when the sun goes completely out of the sky, Scotty? What time of day do we call that? And what happens to the sky?
Night time?
Well done, Scotty. Well done, mate. Give us your book. I'll give you a star for that.
Well, I'd rather
yes, it's the night time. So that proves that what Chemo just said about it being light in the sky is rubbish. When the sun goes out of the sky in your local area, your vicinity, or your country, whatever you want to call it, it goes dark. So that means that when Australia has 18 hours of daylight, the sun can no way get all the way across to us and give us 8 hours of daylight. It's impossible.
Unless it's higher. When it's higher.
Going higher doesn't make any difference, Chemo.
Well, of course
how does it? It'd have to be massive. Australia's 7,000 odd miles away from the UK.
It goes higher.
Yeah, but it's not. It's in our sky, you fucking idiot.
Of how it works.
But it gets higher and hotter and produces more heat. You don't understand that, do you?
Yeah, but we're not talking about light. As I've just proved, it has to be in the sky, Chemo. So are you saying now that when we look at the sun in the UK, when it's in our sky, that it's not really in our sky, it's thousands of miles away on a flat plane over Australia, near Australia. Is that what you're saying? Is that how the flat Earth works?
No, not at all.
So how high in the sky is it then? At midday in the UK, like flat earthers say it's 3,000 miles away. How far away is it then, Cameron?
Again, I'm not a scientist.
So you're not even going to conform with the latest...
It's between 3 and 10,000 miles.
Between 3 and 10,000 miles. So it's nearly the same distance as it is from here to Australia.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's under the dome. That's the most important thing. So unless
we're not talking about a dome, are we? Are we talking about how?
Well, you're asking about measurements.
In a simple experiment, when we're talking to an Australian, how the sun is in the sky for 18 hours a day, and then it also gives the UK 8 hours of sunlight on a flat Earth. I'm just trying to work out how that is possible. You say, I'm not a scientist and I can't explain it. I've asked you to point me to someone who is a scientist who can explain it, and neither of you can do that.
Well,
but I can explain it. I can explain it perfectly on a globe.
That's scientists want to get mainstream attention or will get funded.
This doesn't prove a bore. This just proves that you're just.
No, it does prove a ball, though. It does prove
smart
a ball.
at it.
It's one of the jigsaw. It's one piece of evidence that proves.
You're trying to be a smart ass. That's all.
No, I'm not trying to be a smart ass. If I was trying to be a smart ass, I could rip you to pieces, Cameron. But I'm not doing that because it's Christmas.
This doesn't
it's Christmas. I'm in good spirits today. I'm in good spirits. I've had a good Christmas.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much crack have you smoked today?
About 0.5, Scotty.
So 1, 0, 10. You mean?
No. How does -5
equate
to that?
Man. Come on, you
No,
silly
we don't smoke.
motherfucker.
I don't smoke for one, Scotty. I'm just about to vape some weed, if that's any good to you.
So you shoot up in England, okay?
No, I don't like needles, Scotty. Hate needles.
Why do you always put it in your asshole?
Why do you always have to take it down the gay one, Scotty?
Scotty, why are you always projecting?
I mean, I've been talking to you for less than 15 minutes and you've always brought arseholes into it already. What the fuck is up with you?
The first scary thing I heard was you saying gay and talking about arseholes.
You're projecting, Scotty.
Oh, I'd have to disagree. I never say any gay things. I don't know what hangout you're fucking referring to. Everyone knows I'm straight as a peach.
Everyone knows you're what?
Straight as a peach.
No, you ain't scary, man. You talk about gay sex every time you chance you get.
Oh, did you just mention gay sex, Mark? Oh my god. What are you talking about?
I couldn't help it. I see your picture, Scotty. You just look so gay, man.
Oh, thanks a lot, mate. Well, at least my picture's real.
Right, Scotty,
at least my picture's real, bitch.
Scotty, man. Yeah. Jack can have a rig on the Barbie, son.
That's not. It's shrimp, man. You got it wrong.
I said rib. I said rib, boy, rib. Rib, boy, rib.
It's shrimp. It's shrimp, moron.
Yeah, I know it is, but you can fucking rib as well, you idiot.
Yeah, but you love cock, to be honest about it.
So you don't put barbecue ribs on your fucking barbecue?
Never, not once.
Fuck off, Scott. You're lying to me now. Now I know you. Now I know you're gay, man.
Nonsense.
Well, what else you want to talk about now? We expose that gap in your model, K-Man.
No, nothing's been exposed. All you're trying to be is a smart ass.
I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I told you.
Gap is in his arsehole.
I only come in here because you made quite a profound statement. You said,
yeah, about the satellite.
I wish they'd turn the satellite round and take a picture of the Earth. And there's one up there dedicated to doing that.
Why ain't we deny it? Why ain't we doing it?
And I think that's really profound.
Don't you think, Mike? Don't you think that England is capable of sending up a satellite?
I think England does set up satellites. Or has been involved in sending up satellites.
Hold on. You think we're not capable, or we are capable?
We are capable. We was involved in a satellite. We was involved.
Why do you keep on relying on China for satellite images?
You're going to ask me a question.
No, I'm saying, why do you rely on satellite images from China when you said England is capable when we don't have one? Why?
China? Who's silly bit? I haven't mentioned China. Why'd you mention China?
You just spoke about the Himawari thing.
Oh, so that's Chinese, is it?
Well, what is it then?
Japanese. I know they've both got slanty eyes, but that's a bit racist.
How is it racist? They're the same people.
Chinese and Japanese are not the same people, K-Mate.
Oh my goodness! So what? They're not the same people. They're both Asian.
Yeah, they're from two different countries. How can they both be the same people, K-Mate?
They're the Far East, Mark. You know nothing.
Well, what's that? What? So Russians are Chinese as well now, you're saying that? So Russians are Chinese.
Is Europe.
What?
Russia is Europe.
Right. So
Eastern
it's not
Europe.
East then.
You all don't know your countries and anything and where people
I
are.
don't know. You just said
we live in a
Japan and
world
China
you
are the
don't
same
know very
people,
much.
They're Asians. They're all the same, just different.
So all Asians are all the same then, are they?
Obviously.
Right.
So anyway,
you claim you do
Going
Russia.
at 'em?
you just said Russia was Chinese. Now, how ridiculous is that?
No, I didn't. You said that, Kimmer.
But anyway, the point is, why do you rely on these countries when England has the capability of doing this, but you don't?
Why would we send up a satellite to take a picture of England?
No, of space, of the Earth.
No, that's not what it's there for. Why would we take a picture to send up a satellite to take a picture to say the English Channel and the North Sea? Why would we do that, Kimmer?
So the Queen has a picture that she can print on her toilet paper when she wipes her asshole.
Why would we do that, Kimmer?
I don't know what you want about.
Well, why do you think the Japanese satellite's there?
I don't know. Well, we should have our own satellite.
But why do you think the Japanese? You don't even know why it's there.
Well, I have no interest in what Japanese are doing.
But you just said, wouldn't it be nice to have a satellite taking a picture of the Earth, and there's one up there, and now you're not interested in what it's doing?
Yeah, but not from Japan, from England, I'm saying.
But that's what I just said to you. Why would we send a satellite up to take a picture of England?
Are you being stupid or something? You want a picture of Earth?
Well, that satellite that's up there isn't up there to take a picture of the Earth, Kmart. See,
That's
because you don't know, because you don't want to know what the Japanese satellite is doing, then I can't really tell you, can I? Because it's pointless. If you want to remain ignorant, that's up to you. But you can't make statements about it that you're declaring you know what it does.
I find it odd that you want to rely on.
Well, the Japanese satellite doesn't take pictures of the Earth just to take pictures of the Earth, Kmart. That is a byproduct of what it's there for.
No, well,
you say you don't want to know. You say you don't want to know.
We need craft that is specific for taking pictures of the Earth, and that's it.
Now, why would we do that, Kmart?
So we can clear up this nonsense and stop you talking your rubbish.
What nonsense that, Kmart?
That we live in a spinning ball. Show us that we're spinning. That's what we need to see. A spinning ball. You cannot provide us with that. So until you can provide us with a spinning ball,
you're going to believe anything you like.
All your clever plug about 18 hours and blah, blah, blah.
We have pictures of a spinning ball. What's the matter with you?
We
have pictures of a spinning ball. How can you have pictures of a spinning ball?
Hello.
Find a British person who doesn't sit like a bloody trailer park.
Jeremy says
Britain does have satellites.
Jeremy says that we have video of a spinning ball.
I didn't say video. I said pictures.
How can you have pictures of a spinning ball? That's fucking shit I've ever heard.
Because one is taken every 10 minutes with Himawari and every 2 hours with the Discovery. And
give me what I want, and I'll
give you. That's really believable.
Well, what reason do you have to disbelieve it?
No, stop, Scotty, hold on. Wait, Scotty. He's saying we have photographs of a spinning ball.
Yeah,
I'm asking for a video of a spinning ball.
Of course you are, because you're unreasonable. That's fine.
That's unreasonable.
Of course it is, yes.
Well, hold on a minute. Let me just...
What is video? What is video?
Can I just explain?
Tell me what video is. What is the difference between video and photographs?
You see this is what me and Scotty were talking about in the beginning, yeah?
That's a simple question.
No, but this is what happens, man. Just give us the spinning ball, for goodness sakes, and we'll move on.
The point I'm trying to make is video is all it is a series of pictures. It's 25 pictures.
Why do you accept?
Hang on, let me finish. It's 25 pictures per second. Now, to know that the Earth is spinning, you don't need 25 pictures per second. You know, in the early days of cinefilm, we had if you'd had an 8mm cine camera at home. Hang on. It would have run at, hang on.
No, but Jeremy,
hang on. Let me finish. It would have run at 12 frames per second. Now, in the UK, we have video that runs at 25 frames per second. In the USA, they have video that runs at 30 frames per second. And if you play a video game, it'll be running at 60 frames per second. So all of these things provide us with video. Who's to say what is required, how many frames per second are required for us to be able to recognize motion? And I say, when you're looking at something the size of the Earth, having a photo every 2 hours or every 10 minutes, both of those are perfectly sufficient to be able to see that the Earth is spinning. That's
absolutely not. No chance. No.
Well,
way.
absolutely.
That's a great experimental piece of evidence there.
Absolutely no chance, no way. That is definitely not what people are asking for. We want a video.
Well, I know it's not. And my point is because you're unreasonable. And I think I've just illustrated that you are.
You're fucking unreasonable.
Is okay then. Okay. Is 25 frames per second acceptable? No. So normal standard video that you watch every day, that's not good enough.
So why don't you just say that then? That's why I said no, because you're trying to be another smart ass.
I'm just not. All right, I've already said. Well, I listed them, didn't I? I said in the UK, normal TV is 25 frames per second, and in the USA, it's 30 frames per second.
Look, we talk about. This is the thing, you see. Nobody's a scientist here. We are standard people.
There's no science involved. The only dispute is about how many images are taken in a given period of time. That's your only problem. Yes, it is, because we're already taking pictures regularly. And what you're saying is they're not regular enough. I need them more regularly. So
I want one full rotation of the Earth, one starting point. One starting point, and then 24 hours later, you see that starting point again.
And that's what we see.
Never, ever have we seen it. I would sit up all night watching that if it was real.
Well, do it.
Everybody would. Millions of people would watch that if they knew it was real, but nobody watches.
You could do that now. You get a new image every 2 hours.
Image.
How would it be? Well, that's what video is. It's a series of images. That's all it is.
I don't want a series of images.
Well, that's what video is. That's what you're asking for.
Well, I want a smooth video that flipping looks at the Earth, records it spinning on a spinning board, like you tell us, and that will never happen. I don't ever want to see a photograph again.
Let me try again. Is 25 frames per second the standard video that we see in the UK? Is that sufficient?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because that's what we used to.
Why don't you demand 30 frames per second like in the USA?
I don't understand it like that.
Or 60 frames per second, like you were having a video.
I don't care less about frames per second.
Why is 25 frames per second your standard?
Again, Jeremy, you're not listening.
I am listening. You're not listening.
What am I not listening to?
Why is 25 frames per second your standard?
I've just said to you, I don't understand these frames per second. All I know is that when I'm looking at a video or television or what looks like real life, I want to see it in real time. That's it. Whatever you want to call frames per second in real life, that's it.
Well, one image every 2 hours is.
That's not real life. That's not real time.
Yes, it is.
I don't see things 1 frame per second.
No, you don't see. You don't see any frames when you're looking with your naked eye, do you?
Right. So that's how I want to see it on video, or as good as.
Right, and video is a series of images, one after another. And I'm asking you why your standard is 25 and not 30 or not 12.
No, I don't know why you keep on asking me that.
Because your standard is unreasonable.
I just said
you can't even give me a reason for your standard. You can't even tell me why it needs to be that speed.
Because I want to see something in real time.
But it is real time. Doesn't make any difference at how many frames you have recorded in that time. It's still real time. Doesn't change that.
So anyway, look, that's the crux of the matter. If I go
outside and take a picture of the street outside my house right now and stick it in and display it as I'm doing it, that's real time.
Well, I want a moving image that is real time. If that's how you want to put it.
Right, but what would you see in a moving image?
Oh my God, a spinning ball.
Right, but would you though, Kimo? If you're sat there looking at it, what would you actually see? You won't see a spinning ball because it's.
Well, if I sit there for 24 hours, I would see one.
Right,
shot,
so why not have a frame every 2 hours where you do see the movement? And how does only having a frame every 2 hours? How is that not recording actually what's going on? Why do those extra frames? Why do they make it credible?
If we went
not being there makes it not.
By your logic here, Jeremy, then we would say, why go to the cinema? Just take a photograph of all the actors and look at that. That should be sufficient.
No, we wouldn't.
Yes, we would. That's by your logic. That's what you want. And then here's another photograph of the movie, and here's another photograph of the movie.
You don't go to a movie.
Nobody would go to any cinema. Nobody would go to any cinema if you got one picture every 2 hours.
Because you don't go to the cinema, and nobody goes to the cinema to watch one object, the movement of one object, do they? And that's what you're talking about.
And Kimo, like Jeremy says, yeah, it'd be moving that slowly that you wouldn't notice any movement. The only way you notice movement, the only way you notice movement,
24 hours you would see.
The only way you notice movement, Kimo, is to pick a reference point.
The further it's away,
why don't you let anyone finish, Kimo? Why do you always interrupt people? You know what I mean? I don't understand that, Kimo.
Because you're just making up things. You're making up things.
You're just making up things, Kimo. Your standard is unreasonable, and we know it's unreasonable.
I've just proved it again with that.
We know it's unreasonable because you cannot even provide the reasons for that standard. You have no reason.
You wouldn't go to the cinema
to inflict that standard of evidence upon this issue. You've just selected it because it's a standard which hasn't been met. That's the reason you're setting that standard. And if I could provide you with 25 frames per second video, you'd say, oh, well, I want 30 frames per second, or I want it in HD, or I want 60 frames per second, I want 4K video, or whatever we provided, it wouldn't be enough.
Before you even go to
one shot every 10 minutes from one satellite. I'm nearly there. One sentence. One shot from one satellite every 10 minutes, and one shot from a completely different satellite looking at a different bit of the Earth every 2 hours is perfectly sufficient for us to be able to determine that the Earth is moving.
Well, no, it's not, obviously.
Well, obviously.
Here now.
Well, yes, you would.
Just like you've said, nobody would always go to...
Sorry, go ahead.
Nobody would go to the cinema and have one photograph and then another photograph. They would want to watch a motion picture, right? So same with the Earth. People would sit in the cinema for 24 hours if they knew and believed.
Well, that'd have to be speeded up, Kimo.
They would sit there for 24 hours watching grass grow, is what you're saying. They wouldn't, of course they wouldn't. But we're not talking about a dramatic cinematic production. We're talking about evidence required to determine if the Earth is spinning.
No, and there's only one way to determine if the Earth is spinning, and that's to look at it, observe it.
Kimo, if you took a picture of Australia in one set of coordinates,
then the camera has moved, not the Earth. The camera has moved, not the Earth.
Well, with Discover, it does do, because it's
which is why you would need to be on the moon.
It stays with the lit part here.
Listen, you would need to be on the moon because you would need to be still. So the Earth would have to spin in front of you as you're looking at it. Because all what you're saying is like a photograph, then the guy moves, another photograph, the guy moves, another photograph. That's all you're showing.
But you don't need to be on the moon. You only need to be about, 15, 20,000 miles away, something like that.
How far is the Hawaii?
You need to be still.
I think it's about 300 and some thousand.
Or in one position.
Yes, because it's there. It's not there to fucking make you feel warm and cuddly.
Yeah, it is, Mark. It is. That's what it's all about.
No, it's fucking not.
It's all about the real people. That's what it's all about. And all you people...
Yeah, but the real people believe it's a globe, Chemo, so that just proves you wrong, doesn't it? Because most people on this side...
Well, if it was a globe, Mark, they would show everything that we're asking for 10 times over.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't, Chemo. You know what you sound like? You sound like a little spoilt brat. That's what you sound like. There would be no need
for any kind of fakery at all.
That you've just asked for 10 seconds before. When it gives you that evidence, you say, no, I want more.
Yeah, you do.
It's ridiculous, Chemo. It's utterly ridiculous. No one in any walk of life would demand evidence and then when produce that evidence, say, no, I want more. It's ridiculous.
Well, at the end of the day,
if you could provide a reason for your standard, then I could accept it, but you can't.
You would love to shut Poncho up. You would love to shut A4 up. You would love to shut P up. You would love to shut all of us up, and you can't do it.
No, because you're dishonest, Chemo. We could fly you up in a rocket. We could fly you up in a fucking rocket.
No, you would like to say, look at this guy, here's your proof.
And then you'd say, no, yeah, but you've drugged us and it's a fucking video and we're all tripping or something stupid. I mean, I couldn't give two fucks whether you believe it. I think it's good comedy value and I enjoy conversations with certain people.
Same joke over and over again. I don't think so, Mark. Chicken crossing the road, don't think so. It's not that funny.
What are you on about? Chicken crossing the road still makes people
laugh. Keeps on giving. It is that funny. I mean,
that's what I mean. When you say things like you say, sorry, Joe, I don't mean it's right. You go.
No, go ahead, mate.
No, that's why the only reason I come in Chemo is because you said something so profound and so stupid at the same sentence. You said, why don't they turn the satellite round or put a camera on the satellite so we can have a picture of the Earth? When there's a fucking satellite up there taking pictures of the Earth. You just deny it. That's the only reason I come in here.
Because there's no such thing as satellites.
When you can go out and fucking look at one going over your head and you're telling me it's not there, yeah, okay, Chemo, I'm going to believe you or not.
You guys are easily fooled, man.
No, you are, Chemo.
Yes. Yes, you believe this nonsense. Come on.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Nothing in reality even comes near to matching what you believe, Chemo. I mean, I can understand that you might not be able to explain certain things, Chemo, but when you can't even understand or explain the most basic of things like why one part of the world gets 18 hours of sun, there's only 6 left in the fucking day. How does the sun get from Australia to the UK? And then you start saying stupid stuff. Then you start saying stupid stuff like Scotland's having considerably less daylight than London. It's fucking utterly ridiculous, Chemo.
No, Mike, you're just going on now because you've lost the battle, right? You've lost the war.
See, this is what I mean. This is what he just keeps on giving. When you say things like this, man, it's just
yeah,
so
because you expect me to have all the answers, yeah, and you think, right, because I don't answer, because I don't answer something, yeah, you think, well, yeah, that's the movement destroyed and stopped. I don't think so.
Chemo,
what you've been asked is to provide reasons for your standard and your standard of evidence, and you can't provide it. That is something you should.
Well, I can only go by what made
500 years to discover.
Well, the point is, this is the point. You see, this is what you guys seem to be missing. I can only go by what made me believe in the flat earth in the first place. So whatever you're asking me doesn't, I haven't researched or studied that to know, that doesn't make me think, oh, that's flat earth. There's other things that
I don't think that's an excuse when you.
So that's the point. So you're speaking to somebody else, and they have a different reason why they believe it's flat. Okay, so you're trying to ask different people, well, what about this? What about that? When they haven't really looked into that, and then you're going to say, well, that can't be flat then, can it? But that's not why I thought it was flat. So what you're talking about...
You should have looked into it.
So when you say something like, so listen, hold on. So when you say something like that, explain this, all that makes me think is, well, okay, so it's flat. How do we explain that? There has to be a reason. Doesn't mean it's a board. It just means.
We're not asking you to explain tectonic plate movement. We're asking you to explain something that you can go out and look at yourself.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's
you know in English summer, in the English summertime, reverse it. You know in English summer,
it doesn't mean
you can watch the sun rise and you can watch it set. You can time how long it takes. and then just do a simple thought experiment. How can the fucking sun
and I think that's the new tactic
at the same time?
These agent guys is to ask questions on where you do, you know, because obviously everyone who came in.
This is what I know.
No, Mark. This is what you're doing. No, I'm sorry, but this is what you're doing.
Continue with your bullshit. You don't listen to anything anyone says. You
try to. It's like you ask somebody who knows about physics, and then you ask them about biology. Right?
So you can't
chemistry.
So
they know about chemistry, and you ask them about history.
Google Hangouts,
right?
Chemo can't count.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. You're asking me about geography when I'm more of a.
About geography, I've asked you to time how many hours of sunlight you get in the UK during winter or summer. Is that hard?
Yeah, that's not the point, though. It's irrelevant.
Well, that was the whole point, Chemo.
No, because it can be explained in one way or another.
Well, can you explain it then?
No, I can't, because that's not what made me think it was a
so it can't be explained, can it? And I asked you to point it to someone.
You idiot. That's the whole point. That's how stupid you are. Because I can't explain it, then it must be a bore. No.
Well, can you point me to someone who can explain it then?
Well, go and research. They've been doing it.
There is no one. I've researched, and there's no one, Kumo. So if you're a flat earther, can you point me to someone?
Poncho, he can explain it to you.
Oh, he can't fucking explain nothing.
He's here on the chat.
Well, is your go-to man, Poncho, yeah? Okay.
Well, you just said, can someone explain it to me? And he can explain it to you.
Well, we know full well Poncho can't explain it.
Well, there you go. Anyone that
can't even explain his own name.
So what do you do? There you go.
He can shout. He's good at shouting.
No, because nobody answers his questions. You cannot answer his simple questions.
Well, his questions are stupid and malformed, aren't they?
Because you cannot answer. It's like a game.
Well, how does it change gear? Or, who's changing gear? That's his main question.
Right, and that's the kind of thing I'm trying to say.
Well, there are no gears.
It's idiots. Have come from a different, perspective on the flat Earth. So, and what I've realised is that what you guys do is look at what makes that person think it's flat, and then try to challenge them on something else.
All right, what makes you think it's flat? I'll challenge you on that.
Right, so my number one contention, as you all know, was my super difficult question, level 10 question about the perspective and the distance and curvature. That's all it takes for me. Whatever else you're saying, it doesn't make any difference unless you can show me curvature, right, and prove that the Earth is curved. Then that's it. And Rumpel spent nearly 2 minutes trying to explain it.
So what efforts have you made to determine that then?
Curvature.
Yeah.
Well, we've been looking at that curvature. There is no curvature. It's non-existent.
Right, but that people claim that there is curvature.
Listen to this. Something I thought of. When that guy who drove the fastest car in the world, he had to look for the flattest land for miles.
Right.
He couldn't drive that car on a curved surface. He looks at the wheels and the design of that car. There was no way that could curve or go downhill or uphill.
Yeah, we don't live on a large beach ball, though, do we?
No, but I'm saying the land that they had to cover
much bigger than you're imagining.
No, you don't understand. I've seen that car. Right, and
what you're saying, the car was too long and it would have grounded itself on the curve of the Earth. Is that what you're trying to say? I think that's what you're trying to say.
No, because in order to break the record, it wouldn't be able to go downhill. It couldn't be supported by. It doesn't
go downhill. The curvature of the Earth isn't downhill.
Oh my God! So it goes uphill.
Elevation is not curvature. Why you guys always confuse the two and cannot separate them is beyond me. You should understand this by now.
No, curvature means because we live on a ball. It's the same principle as any ball that you can hold. You're trying to change the ball of the
downhill
Earth.
is a difference in elevation, isn't it? You go from one elevation to another. If you're on the ocean, if you're on the ocean, you're at an elevation of 0. If you then sail 1,000 miles in any direction on that ocean, your elevation is still 0. You didn't go downhill. And that applies exactly the same on land as it does on the sea.
There is no curvature, that's why.
No.
You're right.
You wouldn't measure curvature with elevation. They're a different thing, as I've just said.
Yeah, decline. So you would measure the decline from the point where you're standing, if it goes up or down, right? The elevation or the decline. Yeah. Again, you're trying to confuse people, Jeremy. That's the problem. You're just trying to confuse everybody. Up and down. People know what a curve is. Everybody knows what a ball is.
Uphill and downhill are differences in the distance between you and the center of the earth, effectively, aren't they?
No, according to you, if you're a ball, then the curve is everywhere.
So if something is flat and level, the difference, the distance between the flat and level surface and the center of the earth is the same. There's no change.
Well, all I'm going to say is everywhere you go is flat. It's flat. There's miles and miles of land that is flat. And there's a guy that's going to be doing a test in February. And it's going to prove to all of you that there is no curvature. And I want to see what he's going to say after that.
I want to see what you're going to say after that.
Kimo, you going to go? There's a few people going. Are you going to go?
Who's going?
Where is it?
Who's going, Mark?
Where is it?
I think
Any Flatty's going?
I'm not sure. I thought Matthew said he was going, but I doubt if he will be going. I think.
Where is he doing it?
I don't even want to mention his name.
It's in Canada.
Yeah,
I'm not going to Canada.
North USA.
I think Reds is going. Red's going. I think Pearson might be going. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly, but I think there's a couple going.
No, well, he's going to prove to you anyway.
But wait, if you drilled a hole from, like, say, one side of the Earth to the other side of the Earth, wouldn't that technically be going downhill?
Yeah, well, yeah. Until you got to the center of the Earth, and then I guess you'd be going up.
But you can't dig up.
Yes, you can.
I wouldn't even bother because they're just going to try and confuse you further. Everybody knows what you did.
You're trying to say that once I get to the middle of the Earth, then suddenly I'm going to be digging upwards.
How do you think the greatest?
I dig down now. Can we go on technicality? So say that it was possible for me just to dig downwards right now, all right, and I'm on the bottom of the Earth. Apparently, I'm digging down to the point that suddenly I'll start digging up. So then my perspective will change, and then I'll have to I'll have to look up instead of looking down, and I'll have to.
No, I'm saying when you get to the centre, you get flipped like that.
Well, I think you would. I think because there has to be a point where the
right,
that's where your mathematics doesn't work out. So that's where your mathematics doesn't work out. Like, I'm either digging down the whole time. I'm either digging down the whole time. Otherwise, it won't work. You know what I mean? Because I can't just start digging down.
By the time
Adam, let's imagine
like this. Adam starts digging from his. Hold on, let me just say. Adam, hold on, Mark. So let's say Adam starts digging from his garden to my garden. When he reaches my garden, he will be facing upside down to me. Yes?
I'll be digging up out of the earth like a zombie.
Up out of the earth, right. And if I was to start digging down, I would meet you in a strange position. Jeremy, Mark, you know that's impossible.
Yeah, like where have you ever encountered? No. Now give me an example of where that's ever happened on the Earth, where we can experience.
No one's fucking dug all the way through the fucking Earth.
Give me an example of where we can experience that type of phenomenon.
There is no example.
Tell me. But no, just wait. You're saying that we're living on this planet, so then I should be
ways to say it's impossible.
Can I said that we live on a round ball? Can you show? And then you've said this phenomenon where I'll dig down to the point where apparently I'm digging up. I'm trying to ask you a question. So can you tell me where I can?
It's a hypothetical, Adam. We're just trying to imagine what would happen. But none of us know.
That's all it is. It's a hypothetical. You can't. There's no theory or actual method that you can accomplish that.
But you proposed it. You guys proposed it.
But that's what I'm trying to show you how crazy that thought is.
It was Spurs who came up with it.
It is crazy, but I suppose if you are someone
you're saying that I can dig down to the point that I'm gonna I'll have the shovel and then I'm gonna have to look up and dig up. And then I'll be digging the dirt onto myself in the dirt before. Now listen. Come on, let me. Jeremy, I'm going to do you. Let me speak. All right, because at the point of me hitting halfway, then eventually I'm going to be looking up, and I'm going to dig the dirt onto my head, and the dirt will fall through me, and then technically I should fall through my own hole that I've dug. I should fall out of the hole that I've already dug.
No, you'll fall back to where you came from, according to them. Once you reach the middle, you'll fall back
then I'm just
down.
That's where I don't understand. Like, where's this? Where can I experience this phenomenon?
You can't.
Is there any place on Earth except for the middle of the Earth that this phenomenon that you're talking about is going to occur? No. So technically, this is only hypothetical, and we'll never be able to really check.
It's not hypothetical because you can dig down in your garden right now. You can do that. You can
yeah, you can dig down to the centre of the Earth right now. Off you go.
No, I didn't say the centre of the Earth. I said
don't be silly.
dig.
Yeah,
no, I'm saying when you
get
dig,
it,
when you dig, you know which way you're facing. You know you're not going to spin around at any point. No matter how far you dig down.
I'm not saying you would automatically spin around. I'm just saying.
You are then. Well, that's the phenomenon that I'm trying to understand.
What you consider to be
right now. What would happen?
Well, my view is if you started digging, you'd be digging from your feet, so you carry on digging. You get to the centre.
Yeah, carry on from digging, yeah.
Right,
and then eventually I'm going to hit the point.
When you got to the other side,
eventually I'm going to hit the point of the middle of the Earth, just to say there was no molten core.
So why bother letting me talk then, Adam? You know what I mean? What's the point? You just interrupt me all the time. I mean, fuck's sake.
You interrupted me too. Come on, let's be like reasonable here.
I think once you got to the other side,
let's hear your answer. Go on.
Go ahead.
I just said that I think that you'd continue going through and you come out feet first.
So like that, but then your methodology would mean that I'm digging dirt onto myself. Like I'm digging.
Where's Scotty? Me and Scotty was saying people say the craziest things.
How is that even possible?
So
because
once I know, so if you start digging a hole with your feet,
Mark, listen to me, Mark. Mark, listen to me though. Once I hit the 0 point of the middle of the Earth, that's apparently where the gravity's pulling us. No, listen, it's apparently where the Earth, we're all being pulled towards the middle of the Earth because apparently that's the densest part of the Earth is the middle of it. So at that part where we cross through that, I wouldn't be able to stand like the way that you're saying. Like as soon as I try to dig that way, I'll fall back through to the point where I constantly fall in between the middle of the Earth. Like your mathematics are saying that I should be constantly falling into the middle of the Earth. I'll fall one way until the point where then I'll fall the other way because I'll be in a constant. What would it be?
At the specific centre, I think gravity breaks down, doesn't it, Jim?
I really don't know, but I think what I'm thinking is that once you cross that centre point, once you're the other side of it from. With reference to where you started, I think then you're going to get pulled back towards it. So yeah, I think what you saw as up and down would change once you cross that centre point. But that doesn't mean you would automatically flip over. You would remain the same orientation.
Well, I couldn't
you would just feel like you were standing on your hands all of a sudden. I imagine.
Oh, really? I get what you mean now. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I understand what you mean now.
But I wouldn't be. Then I'd listen there because you said now to feel like I'm standing on my hands, but I've already dug a hole. So there's a hole from the point that I started digging to the
body because
the middle of the Earth. So then I would technically, I would fall back through that hole that I've already just dug. But then I can't
do that
because then I would be falling back through the. So I like.
Well, maybe
what you're saying is a point where I could never pass.
I'm really, I'm at the edge of where my intellect will allow me to speculate. I mean, I just don't know.
Mathematics that you're giving to me, I've already analysed it in my head, and it's saying once you hit that middle point from what you're telling me, I will never be able to get past that. I'll be constantly falling back and forth.
Yeah, but that's quite obvious.
Yeah, maybe you would. Maybe you would. Yeah.
Where can I experience that phenomenon here on Earth?
Well, hang on. I should be able to now get some type of an experiment where I can see this phenomenon that you're talking about. But if we're going to start expanding the hypothetical, you'd have been crushed to death way, way, way before you got to the centre of the Earth because of the
crushed and boiled.
The pressures involved anyway. So you know what I mean. We can't really expand the hypothetical.
Well, like
we tell up and down from gravity.
No, technically the Earth is made up of all elements that we've already got here on Earth, so there would be an element that would be able to use some type of a metal or something that we could use instead of ourselves, obviously, to then go experience this phenomenon. I mean, so we don't have to send a human down. We could send a machine to dig down to the core and make it out of metals that are able to maintain themselves at that.
They wouldn't be able to handle the pressure that's in the centre of the Earth. I don't think Adam. Nothing can.
Well, what metal's down there that's able to handle this pressure in the first place? Then
exactly. What is down there?
But I don't think anything.
What is it that you guys are proving? That your hypothetical is impossible? Well,
no, your hypothetical.
Again,
that's your hypothetical. That's your hypothetical because you're saying that we live on a round ball. You say we live on a round ball, and we're just showing you how absurd that really is. Given the things that we've been taught about this Earth, given the things that we've been taught about this Earth, you're saying that it's got a molten core and whatnot. What is that made out of? How is that not how is that not being affected?
How is that not being crushed and destroyed and evaporated?
Your daydreams about what might happen if we don't do the Earth is what you're presenting as evidence.
No, I'm saying that your mathematics don't work. I'm saying the mathematics provided to us by the education system.
It was a lovely, lovely story. Thank you very much. It's very exciting.
No, I'm saying that the mathematics provided by the education system tell us that the Earth's made of a molten lava of some type. Well, why isn't that, like Spurs Chemo tried to say, why isn't that being affected by these pressures?
Well, it is.
It is. It's being kept down.
What do you mean? It's what? Really? Explain.
Yes. Well, how do you think volcanoes happen when you get a fissure on the Earth's surface?
I mean, if you want to know,
you're the one that's grasping on the straws to keep this. You're the one that's grasping on the straws to keep this lie going. In my opinion, it's a lie. So if you're going to grasp onto straws and tell children that that's what phenomenon is going to happen down there, and there's a molten core,
every person on Earth is required to know the answer to any random question
and then call it true. You can't regurgitate something that you think is true and you have no actual proof of the truth of it. Come on, that's not truth. That's your opinion.
What is my opinion?
That the Earth has a molten core that spins at the opposite rotation to what the Earth spins.
Well, no,
this molten core can.
There's evidence.
Where's the evidence?
What evidence?
Where's the evidence?
Well, I mean, I don't have it on me. Do you want me to go and find it?
We haven't gone past.
I don't really want to go and find it. You can go and find it if you want.
We haven't done. Yeah, we haven't done.
There is no evidence, buddy. We've done this research and we ended up on flat Earth.
Volcanoes.
You've never researched anything. Don't talk.
No, haven't I? When I'm able to sit here and have a discussion to you about these things, and I'm the one that said that the Earth has a molten core that spins at the opposite rotation to what the Earth spins. You're saying I didn't do my research, yet I'm the one that's providing the facts that you provided.
You've said all of that. I haven't made any of
what I mean. I'm providing the facts that you should have provided, and you're the one saying that I haven't done my research when I'm the one providing the facts for an apparent round Earth. So I know more about this round Earth than you do, and you're the one that grasps onto it saying that it's round to everybody else, and I know more about the mathematics behind it.
Okay, what research have you done to determine that there is no proof that the Earth has a molten core? Tell me your process of research.
Because what metal can sustain the pressure?
No, you're telling me your process of research, not your hypothesis. What process of research did you go through to determine that there was no evidence to support this idea?
Well, I looked into what elements could withstand
where did you
the pressures.
Okay, where did you look?
The education system. I looked through the education system. I studied many books that have been uploaded to the internet. I read them. I read scientific books to try and find some type.
Yeah, name one.
I don't have them off the top of my head. I've done that research years ago. I've done that research years ago. You know, that's like asking me to regurgitate something that I don't believe in anymore.
Well, you're asking me to regurgitate things off the top of my head.
But you believe in it. You know what I mean? You believe in it.
Of course I do.
You believe in it.
Of course I do, but that doesn't mean I need to know every detail about it and be able to explain it to any random person.
I'm the one that's providing the details.
That's ridiculous.
You haven't provided
enough. That's not a standard of evidence for something either. It's another ridiculous idea that you guys set up. It's ludicrous.
All that you've accomplished is me not being able to provide an instant source for you to go fact check.
Well, I think that illustrates that you aren't telling the truth about the fact that you've done research.
How did I know that the Earth has a molten? Well, how did I know that the Earth has a molten core that apparently spins at the opposite rotation to the Earth?
That wasn't the subject of your research, was it? The subject of your research was if there is any evidence to support that.
It started off with what element could withstand that. Like,
you have to know that.
They said what is the Earth made out of, and it says there's layers of crusts and whatnot.
Yeah, well, you're just waffling bollocks now. None of this is relevant to your argument.
What is my argument?
Your argument is that you've done research, and as a result of that research, you've determined that there is no evidence at all that the Earth has a molten core.
Yeah, I've determined.
Right. Well, what we're seeing is that appears to be a lie. That you don't seem to have done anything.
That can appear to be a lie.
Nothing you're saying suggests, supports the idea that you have done any research.
I did. I explained to you. I gave you a hypothesis about how we can dig to the middle of the Earth, and then apparently we're in limbo. Where apparently we get to the middle of the Earth and we sit in limbo.
Or anyone that wrote anything that you've read. It doesn't seem like very comprehensive research.
You're not even letting me talk. You're not even let me talk. Like I was the one that
you're talking over me.
I was the one that put across
everything.
Because you're not letting me talk in the first place. Like I was the one that put across the digging to the middle of the Earth and then being in a state of limbo because you'll fall back and forth between.
Anyway, I don't.
Part of the Earth.
I don't.
I'm explaining the mathematics to you about something that you have faith in. You don't even know what goes on.
You haven't mentioned one bit about mathematics, Adam. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. You haven't said a single equation, you haven't even mentioned a number.
You're just rambling on about how you fucking don't think the Earth's crust.
Do you want me to regurgitate like EMC squared or pi or something like that?
Well, you're saying you've done maths. What maths have you done?
What maths have I done?
Yes.
Well,
what do you mean?
Involving this issue.
You said prove this mathematically or something. You said, I can't remember your exact words, but you said you'd analyse the mathematics.
They have said, and when I say they, I'm talking about scientists, they have said in their books, which is they're going off mathematics, that the densest part of the Earth would be the middle of the Earth, the core of the Earth.
Right.
That's based on the mathematics that they've done.
Okay.
Jeremy, I don't understand what you're disputing. What are you disagreeing that?
They're trying to get me on what they're trying to do, Spurs, is get me on a technicality because I didn't say 2 plus.
I have absolutely no interest in arguing about this ludicrous hypothetical. It's pointless. I dug you into a hole that you sat in limbo in. That's all I've done.
Adam, and to say there's no molten stuff at the centre of our planet is absolutely ludicrous.
Molten stuff.
Whatever you want to call it, if it's molten rock or molten metal.
It's like that. I know that. I don't need to know that.
So you're just going to interrupt me now, Adam?
Yeah. But you have a conversation with Spurs, Adam, and when you've done, I'll return.
To say that we had nothing, no molten lava or molten rock or molten metal at the centre of our Earth is ridiculous, considering that fucking volcanoes are happening all around the world.
Yeah, but Mark, how do you know how deep, all that is? We've only dug so far. You can only experiment on.
Chemo, do you drive?
I said dug.
Yeah, but do you drive, Chemo? Do you drive a car?
Yes.
So how do you know when you go and start that car that it's going to work?
I don't know. I just put the key on.
You don't. You put your trust in other people that tell you that it will work. You have no reason to doubt that it will work because it's worked every other time up till now. So when people tell me, when people tell me that this is what's happening at the centre of the Earth, they spend their whole lives learning and practicing this fucking bit of
learning.
Science.
How do they learn this? How do they learn this?
Hold on, Adolf. I was just about to say something. How can they practice, Mark, on that when they haven't been down? I was just explaining to you that we've dug so far, we've done the experiments to see what is down there.
Yeah, roughly 8 miles.
Right, so if we can't go any further, how can you rely on experiments that talk about stuff that we haven't seen?
Well, they use things like, do you know what submarines do to detect, they used to, I'm not sure they use it anymore, but do you know how they used to detect things and how dolphins detect things underwater?
Yeah, but they still don't know what's down there.
How do they do it then, King?
They can get an image, they can get a sonar image maybe of what's down there, but they don't know what actually the material.
Right. So when they bounce, hold up. So when they bounce fucking radio waves or say something that's viscous, like a molten stuff, the things that repeat or the waves they get back are completely different to say if it hit a solid rock and bounced back. That's how they can tell. They can't say. Hold up.
No, you're talking rubbish, Mark. They're not going to get information about the Earth.
Okay. So what is it then? So what do them sound waves represent then, Kimo?
Let me tell you this, yeah. When the Russians were digging down there, scientists had already made predictions of what they might find through their science research, what you're going on about, and it was completely the opposite. They found water, they found layers, they found different sediments, they found all things that they couldn't explain, right? So that's the truth, and there's the report, there's the scientists who have done the real research, Mark. They've been down there 12,000 kilometers. They couldn't go any further. The tools were melting, right? So you're talking about things that people are guessing what is in the middle of the Earth. We can't even break through the crust.
So you're saying they don't know what it means when sound waves bounce off of things?
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is, whatever sound waves they were using...
What I would say is how are they able to determine that it's exactly the same type of mineral that they think it is? Just because it's showing the same type of, what would it be, data that molten lava has showed previously. Like, there are elements that can show the same type of data.
I don't know the exact experiments. I'm not a geologist or whether scientist deals with the inside of the Earth, for fuck's sake.
Maybe you should watch that video, Mark, because it's a real video. Russians went down.
Have you watched it?
I watched it, yeah, and they said that the scientists...
What's the science called what's the science called that tells the what's inside the Earth in the middle? What science is that, Cameron?
What do you mean?
Well, you seem to claim to know loads about it, so what's it called?
I don't know loads about it. I watched
it. So you've watched one video.
You've watched one biased video. What it told. I can't remember it. I haven't got a photographic memory, Mark. I can only tell you bits and bobs. But if you want to go and check it out, it will tell you.
You expect me to know it all? You expect me to know all this science, but you haven't got a photographic memory. What's that double standard there, Kimo, isn't it?
I've just told you I'm not a scientist, yeah? Well, these guys are.
Why do you keep making out that because I don't know a part of the science that's some kind of
would it be like some type of paleontology?
Yeah, paleontology, that's probably what he's looking for.
Paleontology, no, I don't think so.
Would it be? Well, that's the science that studies fossils and whatnot, and that's a part of digging.
Right, so no, but fossils aren't to do with the centre of the Earth, are they? I think it's geologists.
Archaeology is the point. Well, they were getting down to they were digging towards the centre of the Earth and they found fossils. So wouldn't that be like a form of some type of paleontology? That's how they're telling how old these apparent fossils are and other things are based on how far you have to dig down and what elements they're in. That's to do with paleontology, isn't it? So I would say that it's a branch of paleontology.
Right, and I'm going to believe some fucking idiot on the internet, am I?
What is it then, Mars? Instead of just telling him what it's not, tell him what it is. You can't. So shut up. That's the whole point. We will tell you if you can't say what it is.
Geology, isn't it? And seismology.
Yeah, I'll say seismology. That was the one.
Right. So why would he? Why try? It's not. This is not a test, is it? We're trying to come to like a middle ground here.
When I don't know the name of science, a part of science, or I don't know the answer to one of your questions, you laugh and giggle like a little school child and make out that you've made some massive victory.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You make an argument.
Well, that's what you just done. No. Like in his defense, that's what you just done to me when I said paleontology, just based on me trying to think, well, what science would it be to be digging down towards the center of the Earth? And then I thought about the fossils and whatnot, and I come up with paleontology off the top of my head. And then you and your companion decided to try and ridicule me with that. How is that any different from what he was doing to you and laughing at you? How is that any different? He asked you to correct it instead of laughing, and then
I did correct him. I told him it's geology. No, I didn't say geology.
No, Jim Panda said that.
So I didn't say geology, Adam.
Geology?
Yeah.
Archaeology. Okay. That's historical science, yeah?
And you profess to teach English to Russians, and that's what your answer is.
What, to teach them archaeology? Yeah. Yeah? To teach them paleontology,
geology, the science of
geology, yeah? To teach them geography. Geography, I'm supposed to do this, yeah? No. So you don't know what you're talking about.
So geology is geography now, is it?
So I'm saying, am I supposed to teach these lessons to them?
Well, so is geology geography now, Kevin?
I'm saying, what are you talking about?
Well, that's what you just said. I'm just trying to clarify. I don't want to misrepresent
you. Terms that you're trying to make us regurgitate are just terms that so-called scientists have given themselves to give themselves credibility.
No, Adam,
when you say paleontologists and archaeologists, these are people that think that they know what they're doing, but are actually taught in a way where they are regurgitating something they don't know is fact.
And when we tell you, that science has actually done the experiment going into the Earth, you go, no. What are they called? What do you call them? What kind of stupid question is that?
I call them bullshit artists because they say that they can't get past a certain point anyway.
Exactly. You're talking about the middle of the Earth, but we can't even get past crust. But you want to say that they can guess? Think about what you're saying, man.
Yeah, how can they guess when they can't even get past a certain layer? So then, therefore, how are they supposed to determine what's past that layer?
Exactly. Look, and guessing what's behind that wall.
No response.
That's the point. So when Adam brings up about that digging, going down, that's very relevant because it proves that it's a fantasy. You wouldn't dig, then magically turn around and end up feet first. Both your heads were blown trying to answer that question. And that's what me and Scotty were talking about.
Even then, I tried to explain to them what would actually happen at that point. I tried to explain to them what would happen at that point based on the education system, and what we've all been taught is that we would be put in a state of limbo where we constantly fall through the densest part, like say we did create a hole through that densest part.
And then, hold on, and then
is there any planets fucking orbiting your head?
That made Jem Panda say, well, I don't care about the middle of the Earth now, I can't explain it. And that's where we're at now. So that was a good point, what Adam was saying here, because it made you fumble. And that's the whole point. You're like, well, you might end up this way. Oh, the middle of the Earth. Oh, it's hypothetical. What would happen if you dug down? You can't think. It's impossible to think that way. Nothing wouldn't happen. Right, he wouldn't come out.
So what they forget is I've been looking into this topic for a few years now. So, I've fathomed what would it really be like if I was on this apparent round Earth and it was round, and what would happen if I did believe in it to a point where I could say it was true, and I've given it credence and still come back with. What would it be? Something that's a regurgitation. That's all it is, a regurgitation. They have no facts to back up what they've said.
Hey,
what facts do you have, Adam?
What facts do I have, considering that nothing is really a fact?
What facts do you have that we live on a flat Earth, Adam?
Nothing is a fact.
Adam, how many years?
Hey, how are you? Who's this? Sorry.
4 years! 4 fucking years!
Bob, it's Bob.
Oh, how you going, mate? I'm just trying to talk to Mark Taylor and Jem Panda about some of the things we've been taught in the education system and how it seems very far-fetched.
I was just trying to figure out how many years you've been looking into it. A few now, probably 5 years now.
Is it 5 years now? 5 years.
Probably 5 years, and I've still come to the point where none of these round earthers or whatever you just want to class yourselves as can give me any evidence or proof of their claims or anybody else's claims that have said the things that they have, that we're living on a round ball spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, that has a molten core that's spinning at the opposite rotation to the Earth, and they have no evidence or proof. Even proof would be suffice for me at this present time. Proof is just to compel the mind to assert something is true, and still I give them the time of day to try and explain it to me, and yet they cannot. So they can try to make me feel as dumb as they want to by saying, how many years have I looked into it? Well, I've actually woken up a lot of people to the fact that you can't tell me anything and can't tell anybody else anything that would back up your claims.
Yeah, I can't tell a fucking lump of seaweed anything either, Adam. I'm not going to lose any sleep.
That's what it boils down to, Matt, is what Adam's saying here. Because you guys haven't provided nothing, all it is now is about waking people up. That's it. If you guys had something to stop us now, here, look, evidence, proof. You know we're not stupid to say, oh, we don't believe it, we don't buy it. It's got to be real. If it's in real time, no bullshit, no tampering, we're going to believe it, right? But you haven't got that. Nobody has that. So what we can do...
And it was like 2 years ago. It was like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, a video. I mean, what was it? Let me get the wording of it up. The Earth polychromatic imagery camera. So that's the EPIC camera that is apparently on a satellite of some type, and it's projecting or sending data back to be recreated into an image of the Earth. Well, the first one that they released of Earth, the first EPIC image, people provided videos all over YouTube and other alternative sources, other social media websites, saying that they had input sex into that image. And now there's another image that's been that's come out, and if you look hard enough, you can still find sex within the image. That new image. So
but that's just, you know.
So is this just a phenomenon that occurs all the time when you take a picture of the Earth from space? The clouds are going to spell out sex.
No, that's the only one. Well, I mean,
there's two now. The first one was already like there's videos all over the internet. I'm sure once they've studied it like I did, it took me like 5 minutes to find the sex within the clouds on the second one. I was recommended that yesterday. So yesterday I was recommended that on my Facebook page. It's had a NASA.
They probably used the same cloud.
It took me 5 minutes of looking at that picture, and I said, "Oh, there it is, right there, sex." Spelled out in the clouds yet again. So is that just my mind trying to find this in the clouds, or is this NASA being fraudulent, or is this a phenomenon that we should a phenomenon? It's also a phenomenon.
Jeremy, that's the problem. It's not even about, you know, Adam is making sense. Yeah, he might be going on, but you know what he's saying. This is what I understand. You just don't like what he's saying. This is the difference. You know, it's not that you know he's telling the truth, but you don't like the way he's saying it. You don't like what he's saying, and it affects you. That's all you're.
No, he's not telling the truth. That is no, for not telling the truth.
What do you mean by that?
Just don't like it. That's all I can hear from you.
I mean, you're a liar.
Okay.
He's not like lying on purpose. Even if like I'm wrong.
He's not lying. So when he threatens to rape kids, is that a lie?
Oh, here we go.
Well, you said you said he don't lie. I'm just asking.
Am I threatening to rape? Am I threatening to rape kids, or am I threatening to rape cartoon characters? Like a character like Tom and Jerry, or Bugs Bunny, or Daffy Duck, or whatnot. They don't have any. They're not intellectual. They're just someone's intellectual property. They're not actually.
I'm already bankrupt now, Kimo.
Beg your pardon? No, I've talked you out of that right there.
I wasn't talking to you, Adam. I was talking to Kimo.
None of these characters that you talk about are apparently threatened. None of the characters that you talk about that are actually threatened. Like, you know, what's another name that you can say?
Exactly, Kimo. Your silence speaks volumes.
Daffy Duck. Who are you talking? Marty McFly. Are you talking about Marty McFly? Like, who are you talking about that are threatened? Like, because you're taking this way out of context. You always fail to mention that the people that I have threatened are just characters. So I'm threatening Bugs Bunny, and you're so like worried about Bugs Bunny. That's a derailing. That's a derailing.
Nobody's losing.
Oh, it's a derailing.
He's a loser.
Oh, we're losing now. We're
a losing battle, Mark. That's all it's about.
Yeah, you did just lose then, Mark. Mark, you did just lose.
Come and cut someone's throat then.
Let's see that I threatened to make Bugs Bunny. I'm sure Bugs Bunny's very scared of me. I'm sure Bugs Bunny's very scared of me. I'm sure Bugs Bunny is very scared of me.
Winning people do, Kimo. Is that what side you want to be on?
You're not interested in the truth.
So
yeah,
he's trying to derail what I've said.
You denying that Adam ever said that? He's admitted he said that.
You're trying to derail what I've said.
You're denying that he said that.
Bugs Bunny. I threatened Bugs Bunny. Like, where you take that?
He's just fucking admitted saying it, Kimo. So you're going to deny he said that?
Threatened Bugs Bunny, yeah, but I threatened Bugs Bunny. Threatened Bugs Bunny, like I'm sure Bugs Bunny.
Is that because you're a Christian, Kimo? Do you lie so much?
No, I think, Mark, that you're just derailing and trying to troll.
Well, what derailing? He's admitted saying it, Kimo. So am I derailing?
You're talking about flat Earth.
He's talking about truth.
You said that I threatened actual children. Like, you're saying that I've threatened
lies.
actual children.
I made
Like,
a statement
what's
that
Bugs Bunny's children? Does he have any
Adam
children?
lies.
Does Bugs Bunny have
No,
children?
he doesn't. So
Daffy Duck?
I mentioned a
I was
statement that
talking
Adam
about
What children? So you're talking about like the Simpsons
So
then.
I mentioned a statement that Adam's made, and now I'm derailing it.
I've
Right,
threatened Lisa
okay.
Simpson. I'm sure
So
that
you
I'm
only
sure
want to
Matt
hear the
Groening's
statement
very.
that you like.
I'm sure that Matt Groening's very like worried about his intellectual property being raped by me. You know what I mean? Like, who you're saying that I've actually threatened?
Funny you always have to go at me, Kimo, but never
Why are you taking it out of
Adam,
context to
isn't it? He's the
derail
one
what I've
that
actually
threatens
said?
children and cut
You cannot
people's throats,
you
but
cannot
never say
debate or you
anything
cannot
to him.
debunk.
Why is that,
You
Kimo?
cannot just listen, Mark. You cannot debate. You cannot debunk what I've actually just said previous to that. What you had to do was bring something up that was relevant to try and derail.
Oh, I was
the fact
just
that you
proving a
cannot-
point that you're a liar,
anything.
Adam. So you do.
How am I a
really
liar?
rape them
When I
children.
threaten, I've said that. How am I a liar when I just admitted to threatening characters?
So when you
Characters.
so you
took
really,
it out of context
you really
and said-
did want to come fly to England and cut the guy's throat and rape his 3-year-old daughter. Then. So if it wasn't a lie, then it
Does
must
he have
be
a?
the
I don't
truth.
even know if he has a 3-year-old daughter. How do I know who he
Because
is?
he
I don't
told
even know
you
who
he had a
is.
3-year-old daughter and
He's a
asleep in
character
the
like
bedroom next
Seinfeld.
door.
He's a character
And
like.
your
He's
words
a character
were,
like somebody.
I'm gonna
What's
fly to
another
England,
person?
cut your throat and rape your 3-year-old daughter. That were your words, Adam.
I didn't say I'm going to fly to England.
Yes,
when
you
have I ever
did.
said I'm going to fly to
Yes, you
England?
did. Yes, you
No,
did.
I've never said I'm going to fly to England.
Yes,
It's
you
usually
did.
an American. It's usually an American. So and like,
Right, so now you
really,
admit
how
you
am I
threatened
supposed to
to
know?
rape
How am I supposed to know who
American
they are when
children
they're a
as well?
character?
So
They use
that's 2
pseudonyms.
or 3 times.
They
now
use
then.
like
So
now you're taking
I
it
wasn't
way out of
lying, it was
context
lying.
to derail
Thank
what
you,
I
Adam,
said
for
previously.
clarifying that you
This
are
is a
liar.
form of like what would you say? An agent provocateur, really.
Mark, you're crazy.
Proving the point that you lie, Adam. I've just proved it once again.
No, I've just proved that you're an agent provocateur that's trying to use things out of context.
No, you haven't, Adam.
You're just stirring the pot, Mark. That's all.
So to prove you're a liar, to back my fact up that you are a liar, that somehow derailed the conversation, is it? Right.
The fact that you're taking things out of context and failed to add what was actually said.
Oh, so there is a context
I
when you can say
threatened
you're
a
going to rape.
character that was using a
So
pseudonym.
there's a context
They weren't
when you
using
say
their
you
real
can
names.
rape
They had no
3-year-old
real credentials
girls.
attached to the
Oh,
name they were using. That were hiding behind that
do you know that
character like
context?
somebody off a TV show. So you're saying that I'm threatening like somebody that really doesn't exist because it's a character. It's a made-up character. They don't believe in what they're saying. They're using what would it be? A character.
Right.
What do you mean, right? That is right. You're saying that I'm threatening Bugs Bunny.
No, I never said that. You said you're threatening a 3-year-old
Well, you
girl.
are. You're taking things out of context. Well, who's the 3-year-old girl? What's her
So
name?
you're a character then, Adam?
What's her name? Well, no, my name's Adam.
No, so you're a character.
No, my name's Adam.
you're
I don't
a
hide
character.
behind any character. I have
can't
real
see Adam
credentials
on here.
attached.
I can't see
I have
Adam.
real
see
credentials attached
No,
to,
I see
I have
4D,
accountability.
4M.
I have
see
accountability.
4D, 4M. I see 4D,
I have
4M.
accountability, yeah. And then when I'm asked my real name, I state it. My name is Adam Dwyer.
No, you're
There's
a
real
proven
credentials
liar.
attached to what I've
You're
said.
a proven liar.
There's real credentials attached
You're
to that. You're trying to
proven
derail what I
liar,
said
Adam. I'm
again.
not going to believe a proven liar, am I?
Agent provocateurs can never really
I'm
beat
not
me.
going to believe
All
a
they can
proven liar, Adam. Don't be stupid.
agent provocateurs. You lost the battle a long time ago.
No, I didn't. 4 years. 4 fucking years.
You're grasping at straws now, buddy.
Am I? Okay.
I said 5 years now. Shouldn't you go on to a new, mockery? I said 5 years now. Shouldn't it be a
liar in here. You come in this room, you tell people...
I'm coming in this room. What room
You tell
did I
people
come in?
it's spinning. You're the biggest liar going.
That come into room.
It seems like you're getting very angry because you cannot actually add anything to the flat Earth debate.
Nothing. He's lost.
If there was to be a debate, that is. It's really just discerning and dissecting the false information that's being presented to us about apparent round Earth, and then telling people that that's not true. That's not fact. And you're the one that's now trying to provoke people like an agent provocateur.
Right.
Usually, people that act the way that you do are either what would be psychotic or playing a role. So you're either psychotic because you cannot even understand your own logic, let alone somebody else's. So you're trying to question somebody, but you don't even understand your own logic.
Right.
And then trying to provoke them when you've went into your own little psychotic rage.
Well, when he fails to understand, he has to go, he loses the plot. That's what I'm saying. We're asking him questions that are causing them to think
Well, they can't think. They're unable to think. They're saying things that they would never usually say. You're bringing out the stupidity in people. How do you explain this? They come up with this kind of answer. Well, come on. And that's where they're at. And then when they realise what they've said, that's why they say. That's why Jeremy's gone. That's why a lot of people will come. It boils down to name calling, because when they realise how stupid what they've just said, they think, "Oh my God, I need to get out of here." Right? Because I think, how did I just say that? That didn't make any sense at all. But I had to say something. Right? So that's exactly. Jeremy said, I don't know. Maybe this, maybe that. Gone, because he realised he's made a mistake. Marx realised, well, maybe feet for, oh God, you're an idiot. You guys are fools. You guys are silly, right? And that's where we're at now. They've got nothing, no more to rebuttal, nothing else to, no other comebacks, and all they have is ridicule. So, we're going to keep that flat earth torch alive, and all we can do, like Adam here saying, just spread the word, and just let people know. That's it. That's all we can do.
Come on, Kimo, you don't mean that flat earth torch.
Well, Mark, like I said, you've got nothing left but name calling, right? It's clear.
What calls you then, Kimo?
Well, no, not necessarily me, because, that,
I haven't called you any names then, no?
Well, I don't know. I don't really pay attention. It doesn't even bother me if you do.
Your statement about that's all I've got left is name calling is wrong then, isn't it?
No, it isn't, because that's all you seem to have left.
I haven't even called you a name. You just admitted that, so it must be. Okay, well, thank you very much
for
admitting you was wrong again.
We haven't finished yet, Mark.
No, true. And if you can write down the names I'll call you, please do.
Well, we'll see, Mark. We'll see. We'll see where it goes, right? Because you know that this truth will not be stopped. And I think
then present some evidence then, Kemos. Present some evidence of a flat earth. Present just one piece of evidence for a flat earth. I'm willing, and I will go on mute. And I will give you the stage. The audience is here. The lights are dim. Go on, present your evidence. I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see, the stage is set, but it's not for you, Mark. This is not. You won't be able to even handle the reality when it comes out anyway. If it takes you this long, think about it. If it takes you and others this long to come to kind of any understanding, even when it comes out, you're still going to be denying it. Because that's the position that you would rather hold. So it doesn't matter even if somebody did show you a picture of a flat earth, you would still deny it. Of the war, you would still deny it. And
I'm just curious if people like Mark Taylor are going to say sorry or be forgiveful or,
no, they're going to be even worse. There'll be more.
When it all gets revealed, if it once it gets to a point where they have to admit that they don't know, scientists don't know what it really is and whatnot. I'm just wondering if people like Mark Taylor will still grasp onto straws or if he'll apologise for his actions against people like myself. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so I've got to interrupt you there. I'm sorry. I've got to interrupt you here, because you're derailing the conversation. The idea of me going on mute was to give Spurs a chance to present one piece of evidence.
I'll get lost, Mark.
So you're not going to produce any evidence then, Cameron?
Have you provided any evidence?
So you're not going to produce none, Cameron?
No. What you're trying to do now is push the burden of proof onto somebody else.
Piece of evidence, then.
You're trying to push the burden of proof onto somebody else. Outstanding claims come with the burden of proof, and you've stated that we live on a round ball, and you believe in this so much that now you're going to try and push the burden of proof.
I haven't stated anything, Adam. You're talking about
if you pay us millions and billions of dollars, like NASA and other space agencies have received, then I'm sure that we can provide you support evidence.
Because you've been moaning.
If you give us the money that round earthers have received, can you let somebody speak? They're going to do an agent provocateur type of rhetoric.
You're just going to carry on talking, are you? Yeah.
That's more agent provocateur rhetoric.
You're going to carry on talking.
Well, like I said, the outstanding claims. There we go. The outstanding claims.
Mark, when you say proof, what kind of proof would be? What proof would you need to believe it's flat? What do you need?
A picture from space.
Well, there you go. We're in the same boat. Yeah. What else? What else do you need to prove that it's flat?
Picture of the ice wall surrounding the Earth.
The ice wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know we can't get to the ice wall. It's been protected, and you know that we don't have access to space. So what else?
Right. an explanation of why Australia has 18 hours of sun and we have 8. That's 26 hours.
I told you, I'm not a scientist like that. I can't explain why the sun does its magical mystery thing like that.
Not doing
so that's
well,
what you would need, an explanation of the sun. So if we gave you an explanation, that would convert you to flat Earth, yes?
Well, it's got to work though. You can't just fucking ramble off any old shit. What about the explanation? What about an explanation for the rotation of the stars in the southern and northern hemisphere? Why do they rotate in different directions?
Yeah, but again, if you had a picture, you would have to. How would you explain it?
Right, so you can't explain that either.
No, I'm saying if you had a picture.
Okay, can you explain the sunset?
Sun doesn't set.
Right.
It just goes away from you.
Goes away from you, does it?
Yeah, it goes out further and further.
What, in the rest of our life, what happens when something is really close to you and then moves away from you? What happens to its size, Cameron?
The sun does change size. Someone's done a video on it.
Right.
They've measured it.
So how much does it change by then, Cameron? Right, struggling a bit here as well, Kim, won't we?
You seem to ignore me every time I've stated it.
So we just keep fucking struggling, Kim. Why are you struggling all the time?
You talk like an agent at all. Because as soon as I try to talk, you won't let me talk.
Oh, Adam, what's the matter? Don't you like it? That's what you do to everyone else, Adam. Oh, are you taking some of your own medicine?
You're trying to flip the burden of proof onto somebody else when the
Adam. I'm keeping the conversation on track. I'm keeping the conversation on track about flat Earth, Adam. That's what
the original.
That's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. That's what I'm doing. Keeping it on track with flat Earth. Moan. I derailed. I'm bringing it back to flat Earth.
That we live on the round ball.
Answer simple questions.
You cannot then now push the burden of proof onto other people when you haven't the evidence or so-called evidence that you're referring to.
There is no burden of proof. It's called a flat Earth debate. So we're talking about flat Earth. If you don't like it, then go join another room. But I thought you said you wanted to talk about flat Earth. You don't want to talk about flat Earth. We talk about something else. But don't accuse me of derailing flat Earth.
I'm talking about
if you don't want to talk about flat Earth.
The information that's being provided about the round Earth is actually false, and that we should be
about the round Earth.
The amount of money that round Earth is paid.
We're talking about
people like ourselves to the flat Earth.
So you want to derail the flat Earth and talk about the round Earth?
No, you need to debunk the board.
So you want to derail the flat Earth and talk about the round Earth? Okay, well I'm sorry, I don't want to participate in that. If you two want to carry on with derailing the flat Earth talking about the round Earth, that's up to you.
Yeah,
I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. I'm here to talk about the flat Earth. So I'm going to go on mute and let you two derail the conversation. Thank you.
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is this is the trick again. You see, the con. Right, and this is where the wise men of this earth, they come out, right, and they try to fool people with their wise words, their clever tactics. You know, I need to talk about flat Earth when it's all about the ball. This is what the con is: the ball, not the flat Earth. Flat Earth isn't a con, right? If it's flat, it's flat. If it's not, it's not. We don't know. That's what we're saying. You to tell us it's a ball. There's the con, right? So if you're going to try and come up with a con, we're going to break down and reveal your secrets. You know, reveal this magic trick, this magic show that you're trying to give everybody. That's the whole point, Mark, right? And this is where this is when I see that you are like a magician or a tactician, and you're trying to, you know, be clever, the clever clugs, as I said before. You're trying to divert. This is all about you, what you think, the way you see the world, about how you try to fool everybody. You know, this lie. We can see through this lie. If you're part of this is your lie. Right, and we're exposing this. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, well, if you look at Mark as a whole, he's in here and he's acting like an agent provocateur within the room itself, talking. He won't actually back any of his claims up. And then when we look in the chat, he's trying to provoke people in there as well. He's attacking people in there as well for calling him out fraudulent activity. So, it just seems like this person is some type of agent provocateur.
Right, and that's clear from the way that, he comes and goes, and he's just here to disrupt. He quickly went on to something else, when he knew that he was in a corner, because that's all they have. So, again, tactics and agents, trying to do a trick here, trying to fool the masses into something, that we've all believed it. Everybody was fooled. I believed in the ball, but we've all seen the light now. We've woken up, and it's time, Mark. You can step down now. Your position should be in another room with new people to try to disrupt them, not the guys who, who have got their eyes wide open. 2 seconds.
Well, no, what he's actually trying to do is defame the character, defame people's character. They're defame people. So if, like myself, they like to sit there and they'll have a half of discussion with me. And then when I get to the point of making them realize that some of the things we've been taught are absolutely absurd, then they'll go to defaming my character. They won't actually try and debunk the things I've said or have a proper discussion about what I've said. They'll just attack me from angles and things I've said in the past and whatnot. So that's how they, accomplish their goal, is provoking people and then making them retaliate. Previously, Mark Taylor has sat there and antagonized me to the point of me saying some dumb things. And now whenever I get to a point of discussion, instead of actually having a discussion, he'll use what I've said previously when he was one of the people provoking me in the first place, and then try and use that against me. That's a form of agent provocateur right there.
Tactics are at work here, and everything that they've been learning, because they've been studying this, how to analyze people, how to work with people, what to do in these situations, and they're doing it right now. Right, they're listening to how we're cooperating, how we're coming together to try to find some kind of solutions. So it's their job now, is to how to get inside of that and disrupt it. What can we do to disrupt? So I think it's going to come to a point where that, I don't know, we may be considered as dangerous to this movement because we are just as relentless as the people trying to stop us. And if they're going to have to use different tactics soon. Once, sooner or later, or one way or another, it's going to come to a point where, something has to give. Either we're going to continue to push this, or they're going to have to come stronger, more clever, because the con man, he's there to con. So that means I have to be conned. You have to be conned. They need to improve their tactics in order to be able to con the likes of yourself and myself and the people who are out there who are trying to bring this truth forward. So, that's why Mark takes the back seat sometimes, because he's realized that, the level of people on the ground is too high, right? So they have to analyze how we're doing this, what we're doing, and come up with a plan. They need a plan, right? Because we seem to be in disorder, in chaos. It's flat, but how can we prove it? So they're trying to come with tactics. We go away, we think about it. They do. It's like a warfare. This is what we're in. We're in some type of warfare here. Unknowingly, you come into this thinking, I just want to tell people about, the shape of the earth here and what lies are, and then you find that you're up against sharks and like military people. It's insane. Give me 2 minutes, making food. Exactly. I'd agree right there. You come into this, like anybody that has an open mind comes into this trying to debunk it. I started off with flat earth, trying to debunk it myself, and then was quickly turned around and realized that by trying to debunk this, I actually found out that NASA's fraudulent. And NASA is one of the main companies that is referred to when you are talking about a proof of a ball Earth or evidence of a ball Earth. They say, well, look at the images that are provided from satellites and whatnot. And all these satellites are run by agencies like NASA. If they're not NASA affiliated, then there is no company that has these things in the air that is not NASA affiliated or military. So, the rhetoric that they use is provoking into a way where you get to a point of realizing that there is no truth that is being provided by these agencies, and they might be employing some of these people to come on here and derail any type of information flow. Because for me and you to sit here and go back and forth, Spurs, we might find more truth.
we might be able to actually come to some type of realization or be able to provide proof or evidence that these companies are fraudulent. But what they try to do is misdirect us into trying to provide proof of a flat Earth, when we know, I can say openly, that I don't know what shape it is. But the evidence that I've been provided saying that it's a round Earth is fraudulent, and I cannot.
Can you produce some evidence for that, Adam?
The fact that any satellite does not send
can
any
you produce some evidence? Can you produce
I'm giving you the evidence right now. I'm trying to give you the evidence.
So can you produce some evidence for your claim, Adam?
Satellites do not send pictures back down to Earth. They send data that can be manipulated by a human. So if there's any type of human involved, that would be where the manipulation is involved.
So
if it was a computer sending data to another computer, and the computer had a program running that was based on true statements and whatnot, then we could trust that. But a human is involved within nearly every step of this, where that means that the data can be manipulated into a way whenever it creates into an Earth, into a round Earth, that people believe is lie. People are so, what would it be? They're so desperate to know, to put themselves on a pedestal, like yourself, Mark. You're so desperate to put yourself on a pedestal that you haven't looked into these claims that you make for yourself. Saying that we're going to dig feet first out of the hole. That's the claim that you made earlier, Mark. You know, we could go back in this film, in this broadcast right now, and get your claim that you would dig feet first out of a hole.
I've made no claim. I made no claim.
But you did. You made that claim.
I made no claim. I made no claim. Right, so you've been rambling on about, you've been derailing the conversation about flat Earth for 20 minutes now. Let's get back on topic. Flat Earth. Let's have some evidence for your Adam, use chemo, or Adam, for flat Earth, right? I'm going to go on mute again for a chance for you to give the evidence.
The horizon is proof of a flat Earth. It's flat. Your perspective will change based on how your elevation, and you'll be able to see further, but it's still flat. If you go to the point of where the horizon is and you look towards your new horizon, it'll be flat. So if I look out now to my horizon line and then travel to the point of where that horizon line would be, and then look out to the distance where in the same direction, it's still flat. I can continuously do this and it's always flat. There's proof. There's not evidence, there's proof, Mark. Because evidence is a fact. Evidence is true, and science doesn't go off true. They're working on theories.
Yeah, I see curve, Adam. I see ships going over the horizon. So that's produced.
I'd say that you're indoctrinated. You've been brainwashed to see a curvature.
So you're
even if you're on a round ball, you shouldn't see it. Even if you're on a round ball, like they say we are, you should not see any type of curvature.
Even if you're on a flat Earth, you should not see any sign of straight lines.
Your perspective would be flat.
No, your perspective, if you see on a flat Earth, your perspective would be flat.
So would it be on a round ball too?
So it would be on a flat Earth as well.
So you'd be brainwashed. The only way that you could see a curvature is
the only way you could see any flat lines.
Some type of an igloo or something, you know.
If it was type of an igloo or something, that's the only way you could see a flat line. If you was type of an igloo.
You live on a cylinder. That's where you can say you can see.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a cylinder though, because it'd be flat. So it couldn't be a cylinder. It'd have to be flat. See, that's what you'd see if you was living on a globe.
That's like, what we've been taught is that we live on a round ball.
That's what we've been taught, that we live on a flat plane. It's wrong.
It's like proof of your horizon line being curved.
See, it proves that the horizon line is flat, and we don't actually live on a flat plane. We live on a globe, so that's why it's flat. It's flat.
To represent what you're saying with a model, then
if you wanted to represent what you're saying with a model,
is that we live on a cylinder. If you're saying
describing that we live on a flat Earth,
we're living on a cylinder.
You're brainwashed that we live on a flat Earth.
Well, the flat Earth is a result or the conclusion of you not telling the truth.
Right. So what lie have I told them? What lie have I told them?
You said it's a spinning ball.
Oh, when did I say that?
Oh, it's not a spinning ball, yeah?
We're not asking about what it is, and I'm saying, when did I say that?
I came into this in the belief that you were saying that we're living on a ball that is spinning around the sun.
When did I say that?
I've heard you say it before.
When before?
I don't know exactly which video, Mark.
But I thought we weren't. I thought when I mentioned something about what Adam said before, you said no, that can't be counted. So
it's nothing to do with the shape of the earth.
What I said before, we weren't talking about the shape of the earth. We was talking about whether people lie or tell the truth. When I was pointing out that Adam doesn't.
Oh, I was in the kitchen. I didn't hear any of that.
Right.
But my point is that you're.
So I haven't made no claim, then, have I? If we can't use what Adam says in the past, then you can't use what I've said. So from the start, I've made no claim, Adam.
So now you're just confusing everybody. Are you saying?
No, I'm not. I'm making no claim, like I said to you. I've been accused of derailing the conversation. I've been accused of derailing the conversation. So I said to you, I won't derail it. Let's talk about flat Earth. I've asked you to present some evidence for flat Earth. Adam's admitting he's got no evidence. All he's got is proof. But
so you're now saying that you don't know if you want to spin it ball.
But you did make claims.
I haven't said that.
You did make claims. You've made two claims now.
We're talking about.
You've made two claims now, Mark. You've made two claims now, Mark. You've made two claims now, Mark. You've said that you've seen curvature. That's a claim. All right, you've said that. Listen, Linda, listen. You've said that you've seen curvature, so that's a claim. And you said that. And you said that if it was a round ball, then you'll be digging out of this ball first. I'm talking about what you're trying to say is true. So you're trying to like.
Childish, I'm trying to find out what you want to do. You want to talk about flat Earth, or you don't.
I'm trying to make sure that everybody realizes that you do not know what you're talking about. And I hope to God that you don't have children and teach them the dumb shit that you're trying to represent here.
So I asked you to produce a lie that I've said, but you can't produce the lie. So I don't think it's a bit. And who was you just saying about?
Yeah, you said that you've seen curvature. That's a lie.
You've called me a liar 2 or 3 times now. So I think the only person whose game is calling names is yours, Kimo. I haven't called you any, but you called me a liar.
Either it's a flat plane or it's a spinning ball. Which is it?
Well, I'm asking you what it is. You're the one that's making the claim. It's a flat Earth
debate. If you don't know, take a back seat and try to learn something.
That's what you want to do, Mark.
That's what I'm trying to do, but you haven't got no evidence, Kimo. You keep doing this waffling.
You want people that are open-minded to make a claim.
So if you can produce some evidence, Kimo, I'm willing to learn. But you have no evidence, do you?
See, watch out, Spurs, because he's trying to flip the burden of proof onto you.
He's trying to ignore you.
He just said I have to sit back and learn. So I said I'll sit back and learn, produce some evidence. So what is it? You either want me to sit back and learn, or you don't. I don't understand. I'm a bit confused. I'm dumb, see? I'm stupid and dumb, so can you explain it to me?
Water always settles flat.
So do you want me to sit back and learn, Adam? Or do you want me
water
not
always
to sit
settles
back
flat. I'm trying to provide you proof and evidence. Like water always settles flat.
You said you had no evidence.
The whole horizon line, and I tried to explain the horizon line to you and how it works.
You said you had no evidence, Adam. All you said is, I have no evidence. All I have is proof. You're saying that I cannot state something. I'm making a claim right now, and water settles flat. Yeah. So for the claim, I need evidence.
That's a claim that I've made now. I've made a claim, and I can prove that. I've got a cup of water.
I need evidence, not proof. Evidence.
I've got a cup of water in front of me, and the water settled flat.
I need evidence.
The water settled flat. There is no curvature on the water that I see.
No, that's not evidence. That's proof. I need evidence, Adam.
Well, you can get a cup of water yourself. You can get a cup of water yourself, and then see.
No, that's still not evidence. That's proof.
When it settles, then that's proof again,
Adam. That's proof.
How's that proof? That's evidence.
Well, it is because I can go out and prove. I can go out and prove.
Well, that would be evidence because then we've got an ocean. We've got an ocean. So then you're saying that this ocean. You're saying that this ocean that we've got sticks to a round ball, when it can't because water settles flat.
Oh yeah, Mark. Water doesn't curve. How do you explain that?
Right. So what shows the raindrop then?
Another lie, Mark, by saying that water curves.
What shows the raindrop?
Over an object. That's in on itself.
What shape is a raindrop?
In on itself, it curves. That's a ball of water.
Then, so water can curve in nature. No. Action on it.
Direct.
The force acting on water is gravity.
You're trying to add misdirection. I said when water settles. When it's at a stagnant point. When it's at a stagnant point.
Kimo, that water curves.
When water is at a stagnant point, all right, of non-movement, when there is no movement, it settles flat. You're trying to now add movement into this equation.
Oh yeah.
That's 1 plus 1. That's 1 plus 1 plus movement. 1 plus 1 plus movement equals whatever you want to equal.
Movement. Who mentioned movement? I haven't.
Well, raindrops. That's what you put into the equation right there. Raindrops.
Yeah, we're going to get tonight too. Anyway.
Silly when we get more and more technical.
Tim just joined the show, so.
What? Tim?
Hello, Adam. How are you today, buddy?
Hello. I heard someone say hello, Adam. I couldn't really put my finger on it. Your microphone was too low and it echoed. Is that the real event skeptic? Is that Ronnie St. James Harris?
Yes, this is Ronnie.
Oh no, that's Tim Osman.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
So, Tim Rothschild, is that correct?
You got it.
Tim Rothschild?
Yes.
So am I correct in saying that? Tim Osman, the character that you use, or whatever account it is, you're really Tim Rothschild, the person that collaborates with David Weiss?
Got it.
Is that... So I finally got it?
You did.
I'm just curious on why, if you're making Flat Earth videos, you've decided that you're against Flat Earthers for trying to reveal the information, especially somebody that done it before you. So you know that I have released Flat Earth videos before you or David Weiss did. So I'm just curious on why you would attack the person that would have woken you up to the fact of such information. I was the one that helped you to be privy to this information.
Negative.
Is that just somebody using a Tim Osman soundboard? Hello? Are you there? Event? Whoever you wanted to be referred to? Are you there? Have I been removed again? I'm not too sure if I've been removed again, but it seems a little odd, you know. Is that you? Are you there?
Adam Dwyer is a pedophile. Negative.
I can hear you, Adam.
Oh, thanks, dude. I don't know if that's a soundboard of the character, or if that's actual the person that usually comes
Adam
on.
Dwyer is a pedophile. Negative, negative, negative.
I would say that's definitely a soundboard.
Negative.
Who knows? It's like, if I'm correct, then the person that they're using a soundboard of, like, or if it even is the right person, like, it might be a soundboard, or it might be the real person that's behind that voice. And if I'm correct, that's Tim Rothschild.
Negative.
Is that right? Timothy Rothschild?
Adam Dwyer is a pedophile.
Timmy Rothschild? Is that correct?
No.
Hello.
Oh, I didn't know if it was you or if it was the fake account that is made about you.
No, I'm the real Slim Shady.
Doors
So you're gonna stand up?
is a troll.
Is this Sensi or is this Bob L?
Doors is a troll.
It's a nice soundboard there.
Nice. I got 3 people to think I'm soundboarding. How you guys doing? This is Timothy Osman, live.
Well, was I correct on saying that the Timothy Osman character is actually Timothy Rothschild?
No, Tim Osman is, you just Google Tim Osman. Let me just load up some bugs here.
Osama bin Laden's character that worked for the CIA, or the name that the CIA gave him when he was an operative?
Yes. Yes.
Are you traveling now? Are you traveling now?
I absolutely am, yes.
But I'm just wondering if that's Timothy Osman, you know, like you. Are you Timothy Rothschild, sorry? Is that you?
Are you a Freemason? Are you a Freemason?
Now that I've went back and looked into all the videos and I've listened closely, I've heard the voice before and sounds very much like a Timothy Rothschild. Like I said, look at Pig sounded exactly like David Weiss, and you sound exactly like Timothy Rothschild. So if I'm correct, you and your friend or companion or whatever it may be, you I don't know what you're doing here, but are you making money off this?
Absolutely.
You're making money off this, so you admit that you're making money.
Yes, the CIA actually really wants to put a stop to the flat Earth truth.
No, I wouldn't say that you're trying to put a stop to it, because if I'm correct, what you're doing is you're data mining, and then you're using what's said here to recreate videos under large channels' names, which are also fraudulent, but you're using that under other channels' names, so then you can gain mass revenue out of it.
Yes, correct.
So you're taking what's being said here, and then you're uploading it on, say, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, or Eric Dubai, or other channels like that. You're uploading it on their channel, so then you can gain mass revenue off what the information that's being presented here. So while you suppress and derail these shows, you're also stealing the information and using it elsewhere.
You are correct.
Dude, he exposed you.
Exposed. Timothy Osman exposed. Look at his dick.
Why would you like call yourself Timothy Osman when I just asked you if you were Timothy Rothschild?
No, see, my short name is Tim Osman, but my actual name is Timothy Osman.
Did you just kick the host of the show, or did they leave?
I would not do such a thing ever in recorded history of Timothy Osman being alive.
No, the debate is still in the external chat. There you go. He's back.
Maybe just drop out then.
Can you hear me, debate?
Debate? Bob?
Debate has been doxxed. Not this clown that's acting in for debate, but the actual real one.
Oh, so who was it? Did I get it right? I posted a comment on your video, and I said I gave you a link to a video. Was I right? Was it the Bijon network?
Nope. But you can check my video.
Oh, did you make a new video?
Oh, I'm always making flat Earth videos, man.
Can you give me a link to the video where you expose this person, please? I'll watch it. I'm very curious, you know, like I'm interested in trying to find the truth. So if you could provide any type of truth, then it'll be good. But at the moment, I haven't been able to find anything that you've actually presented. And
hey, isn't that funny? Because that's exactly how I feel about you, Adam. Oh my God, that's great.
Hey guys, could you hear debate talking?
No.
Okay, so you have mic issues there, debate.
Yeah, make sure to not rejoin so that this channel gets shut down. Go ahead and delete all the videos too while you're at it. Do him a favor.
Why would you delete the videos? So then the information that was presented here cannot be, like, there's no proof of the information that was presented here. So then when you make videos on the larger channels, then the people that you've stolen the information off cannot come out and say, well, they're not the ones that are actually in the know or privy to the information in any way. They are just taking it off somebody else and using it as their own.
Yeah, oh man, you got it. Nailed it on the head, Adam. Good job, man.
I'm just trying
brilliant.
I'm just trying to put an opinion out there, you know. If I'm right, then I'm right. If
I'm
wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's conspiracy land. It's conjecture land. Go ahead, man. Make up more theories that have no reality basis to them.
Why would you waste your time here then? If that's all just conspiracy
Why would you waste your time here?
I'm trying to find the truth.
Incredible.
I'm trying to find the truth, and I think that Flat Earth may be able to guide me to some type of truth.
So everybody's a shill and everybody's a paid agent in Flat Earth, but you still think that you can get some good information from it, right, Adam?
Not everybody.
Well, to you, everybody is. Who's not a shill?
Who's not a shill and a troll? I've met like numerous people, but if I tell you their names, then more than likely you're going to attack them like you've attacked me.
How have I attacked you? Do I?
Are you at work at the moment?
Yes, I'm at the call center.
Like when I say work, are you like at the office at the moment? I thought that you work from home. I thought that you work from home. Have you been called into the office?
Is that the NASA call center?
Yes, it's the NASA FBI troll center.
That's the FBI troll. I didn't know the organization merged. I thought they're...
I'm just curious. Like you mock flat earthers so much, but yet why do you always come to their hangouts, or why do you try to derail people that are looking into it? You know that I'm not paid to be here, so why are you trying to attack me so much when I'm just trying to find truth? I know, so why would you attack me so much?
Because people like you make us look bad.
Well, you might not know Thor's, whoever you are, but the other character here, he knows that I'm not paid. I've encountered this character on other channels. Like, I encountered this character and didn't even need to talk about Flat Earth. I was talking about crisis events and crisis actors and false flag events when I first met that Timothy Osmond character, or Timothy Rothschild, if I was to make an assumption on who it really is. But Thors, were you tuned in when Jeremy was on the show and Mark Taylor and Spurs Chemo?
Yes, that's actually why I dropped in. And because I saw you here again. Because you said some really, let's say, weird things there. So you're skeptical that the molten core exists?
Well, yes, I'd say I am skeptical of that, but I'm just trying to get to the point. Did you hear what else I said? So at that point of the molten core, if we were to be able to pass through that at that point, we would be trapped in a state of limbo where if there was a hole directly from one point of the Earth to the other point of the Earth, and it went through this molten core, all right, and say we were able to make some type of a tube of sorts, so then the molten core was not what would be involved in what I'm talking about right now. So the tube that we're talking about is a hypothetical tube that runs from one side of the Earth to the other through the molten core, or whatever the core may be made out of. Once you pass the point of where the molten core is, then wouldn't you fall back towards the other direction and vice versa? So then you'd be trapped in a state of limbo per se, where you're floating back and forth in between the core because you're falling at one point. So
depends. If you're free falling down, then you will go at the other end. There's some very complicated calculations to calculate this, but we are assuming that we have no traction with the walls of this tube. If we have, then we can just propel ourselves by pushing from the walls of the tube. So it doesn't matter really that gravity is kind of weird there, let's say, for the sake of discussion. But what's the point with this?
Is that a hypothetical, or is there somewhere where I can see this? Can I like,
well, your whole example was hypothetical.
Yeah, obviously, but like, where the point of being pulled towards the middle of the Earth, once I get past what I would call as far down as I could get, then I would reach the point where I'm now digging upwards, but then I've already made a hole that I would fall back through, but then because I've already made that hole, once I've fallen back through, I would instantly fall the other direction because of the pull of the Earth's core, which is the densest objects, apparently the densest objects. So we would constantly be trapped in that falling stage of back and forth falling. If you understand what I'm trying to put across here.
Well, if you're free falling, then sure, there's going to be some funky counterintuitive things there. That's why there are calculations proposed for this. But I don't see how this proves the notion that we have a molten core at the center of the round Earth.
Well, like Spurs Chemo presented or tried to present, and then was interrupted. They haven't been able to pass a certain layer depth. So, what was it that they were saying? 88 kilometers or something of that sort? 88 miles?
11 kilometers is the deepest hole.
11? The deepest hole is 11 kilometers?
Yep.
Yeah, so how are they able to determine what's underneath that if they haven't been past that?
Oh, seismic data.
Seismic data.
Well, we know the properties of waves, right? Of sound waves when they pass through certain objects, right? Because we test this in a lab, right? And so when we pass these waves through the Earth, we see how it propagates and what properties they have when they come out at different places on Earth. From that, we can determine what is inside, what is underneath us, and what we see is that it's a sphere.
So they've sent a sound wave completely through Earth, and it's reached the other side. You're saying?
Oh yeah,
they have.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Can you link me to something about that, if you're able to?
I don't have it handy how to search, but I don't see. I mean, if you're saying you don't know,
I'd like to do that. I don't know. I'd like to look into that. You know? So.
I was just saying that we don't know.
I'm not trying to say that it's wrong. I'm just trying to say I haven't heard that they've sent a sound wave all the way through the Earth. So that'd be interesting for me to look into what they're talking about. So.
Well, let's say they didn't, for the sake of discussion. Why could not they make a reasonable determination of what is inside the Earth by sending local waves, right, and then combining all the data to make a image, right?
Because that would be biased in a way where they are assuming that the elements react the same way that they react within a lab. So if I was to send sound waves through a metal object within the lab, and then I was to put that same metal object within the Earth at a lower depth than what they've already been at, so the 11 kilometers below that, how do they know it's going to react the same way?
We can replicate the conditions roughly, right? Roughly the conditions that would be inside the Earth. The conditions would be high temperature and high pressure, right? We can replicate this in a lab too.
That's assuming that occurs. You know, like that's assuming.
No, we don't have to assume that that's what it is. No, but we done both, right? So because we have scientists studying these kind of phenomena for centuries now, right? How does sound propagate through different materials?
Are you talking about like people like Albert Einstein or Isaac Newton and whatnot?
I don't think they did seismic analysis or experiments like this, but I'm pretty sure there are other scientists who did, right? This is a
Can you give me just one name?
Yeah. Off the top of my head, no. But I know that seismology exists as a field.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to say, because I might be able to look up their name and find some type of research that I'd look into. Right? I like looking into these things. It's interesting.
Sure. Well, you can look up seismology.
Seismology, I can look into that now and maybe find something of my own. But yeah, would have been a lot easier if I had some type of name to go off that, you know, the person that actually accomplished it. But Google will help me there. Google's a good starting point. So. From Google, then I can go to the library and whatnot. So,
right, just that you said in the other hangout that we don't have good reason to believe that there is a molten core, right? And just it turns out you didn't really look into this.
Well, because I would say I don't know if there's a molten core. I didn't say that I have good reason to believe there is or there isn't. I just say I would know because what I've learned is that they haven't been able to pass a certain depth. So, me being unbiased, I would say that everything past that point would be an assumption they can assume that they're the metals and whatnot, but we don't know that, say, iron doesn't react the same way as water when it's put under certain pressures and temperatures and whatnot, and it's compressed underneath the earth. You know what I mean? Like,
of course we do.
Under these conditions, you know. So,
of course we do. We can replicate these conditions, you know, on a smaller scale.
Well, we really can't replicate the conditions, because you're saying, like, you're able to have the amount of minerals or the amount of elements, you know, how can I explain that? Like, the earth is apparently how deep, and you're saying that you can replicate that, but you don't have the amount of elements to put within that. So you'd have to have the amount of dirt and other things that are combined with this, you know, like metals and minerals and other things, you know, stones, diamonds, other things like that. You'd have to have all of them combined and then pushed, compressed forests, you know, and whatnot that have been compressed and fossilized and other things like that. You would have to put all that into the equation and have the amount of that. You could try to say that you've put it into a scale type of experiment, but that's biased to say that it would react the same way when there's a lot more mass.
Well, how would any of that could change the results?
Because of the
so the thing is, Adam, you could like say that
you're assuming that like one layer of dirt, say a millimeter thick, you can replicate a kilometer worth of dirt. You can do experiments with a millimeter of dirt to a kilometer of dirt, and they would have the same type of outcomes and whatnot. But I don't think that's true.
Well, the thing is, so this is touching a little bit on philosophy, right? You're saying that, well, we didn't know for a fact that those particular combination of circumstances in which we would propagate sound would be exactly the same as when we do it on the surface of the earth, right? Without all the minerals, right? Without all the specific combinations. Well, you can say this about anything, right? You can say, well, how do we know that in China sound waves propagate like in America, right? Or how do we know that in a Chinese house sound waves propagate the same way? Or how do we know that the Chinese soil will have the same properties as it does in America, right? And from that, you can also say, therefore, we should not, sell cars there and fly planes there, because we do not know, right? It might be some specific conditions in China that doesn't allow planes to fly, so we should not send planes there, right? You see, this is sort of global skepticism, right? This is, while it's a legitimate possibility, it could be that there is something unique there in China that doesn't allow for, let's say, jet engines to operate, right? But when we don't have any good reason to think so.
That's not what I'm really saying, though, because we're talking about we're on the top layer of this earth. We're on the top layer, and so is China. China's on the top layer, so their tests or experiments would be the exact same that we would be able to.
Well, you don't know that. That's the thing. It could be, again, that there's some unique properties in the oceans or in the atmosphere above China, right? Just like there's unique geological formations everywhere in the world. It could be that from these geological formations, you have unique atmospheric conditions, right? Because, for example, soil itself is different throughout the earth. There's slight differences there, right? And so you could apply the same criticism like what you did to, this analysis of the seismic data and say, well, there's a possibility that these new combinations of properties might completely fuck up the data, right? But that applies to everything. That's not how reasonably we go down our lives.
On the top layer, what we're able to do right now is, if, like you said, these unique conditions that might occur within the top layer in these different masses of land might create, what I've tried to put across, it would be the same type of output. But we can also take the dirt from China and then take it to the same place that we've conducted the experiments previously. So if I'd done the experiments with the dirt here, with these sound waves, I could then go to China and grab the dirt from their country and then bring it back to Australia and conduct the same experiment and have an unbiased result where they're unable to penetrate.
Well, that's the thing. You see, somebody could say, well, there's some kind of magical properties to China any soil that is in China has property X, but when you take out of China, it loses that property, right? And this is sort of kind of like what you're saying about this inner core seismic sort of experiments, right? And then you're sort of right. It is a possibility that unique conditions there could be that would funk the data, but that's not how humans reasonably go about their lives, right? We go by what we know, right? And we infer probable scenarios based on what we know, right? We have no reason to think that there's some kind of magical situation in China, and we don't have any reason to think that there's any kind of special conditions in the inner core which would make our seismic analysis to be wrong, right? And also, we construct a coherent picture from the seismic data, right? If there was something that we didn't account for, we would get gerbled data, but we don't. We see a clear image of a spherical Earth with layers, right, inner core, etc., as the hypothesis predicts, right? It's kind of like if you have a.
But also, they're sending these radio waves down and whatnot, and then they're assuming that it's an element that they've already encountered and whatnot. So then their research would be, well, what is that? Sound wave, sorry. Yeah. Then their research would be biased towards them assuming that they have found every type of element, but they haven't been able to exceed this 11 kilometer limit that they're at the moment. So how do they know that there are different elements that react the same way to elements that we have already counted on the top layer? So within the first 11 kilometers of this Earth, there might be elements that react the same way to elements that are under 11 kilometers where we have not been, and they're assuming that it's the same element that they've encountered on the top 11 layers, or 11 kilometers, sorry.
Well, but you're just leveling the same objection, right? And I tried to explain to you that, while it's possible, that's not reasonable to doubt. That's not a reason to doubt the data, right? Especially when the data is showing a very coherent and clear picture, right? If our data was garbled by some interference, it would come out garbled, be weird interference, be weird image, right? But what we don't see, I mean, you would have to say that there is some kind of very unique circumstances there, that when we send sound waves from any point of the Earth, that it somehow makes them to show that there is a sphere inside, right? How would that happen without there actually being a sphere, or us living on a sphere? You'd have to propose some very funky and almost magical circumstances to say that, somehow it would make these waves propagate through this flat plane as if it is a sphere, right? There's no mechanism that I know that would cause this, and no scientists know, right?
Well, that could be the fact that the way that they're, what are these people that are studying it again? Seismologists. It could be that the way that they're taught is a form of shamanism where they believe that they are seeing something, but it's data that's being used, and the data could be manipulated into a way where anything they anything they receive will then be translated into a ball. It's just like the satellite type of rhetoric that they push to us. They say that the satellites beam certain sound waves or radio waves or laser beams down to the depths that they can find and whatnot to then shape out the Earth. And then they send data back to the Earth that then recreated into images of the Earth, and it represents a round ball. But this could be because of a shaman that's created the data in a way in the first place. The original people that created this data made it so then any information would translate into the ball.
Right, and you're saying kind of like what I was saying with the whole magical China example, where you take the soil out of China, it loses a property, right? So the problem is that while it is possible, let's say hypothetically, there's this shaman who makes all the data to show this kind of phenomena. You could say this about anything in your life. You could say that when you go outside, right, you're actually not seeing the world as it is because there's some kind of voodoo magician or whatever who is manipulating your mind to think that there's no cars on a road when you want to cross this, right? Thus, you should not go across the road because the shaman is fooling you. And they're actually cars.
I'm talking about a human being, so unless they've been able to interact with my eyes and with my personal eyes, then no, that's not accomplishable by another human being. So unless I'm wearing a pair of glasses of some sort or whatnot,
right,
or they've been able to interfere with my eyes.
Right. Unless there's a mechanism proposed by which this entity could manipulate this, you have no reason to think that it's happening, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Good. No, awesome. Now, by that logic, can you propose a scientific mechanism by which the seismic data would be affected by the shaman, or as we talked before,
well, that'd be the sound waves, sound waves, and the way that the data is transmitted back.
Right. How could a shaman affect this? What mechanism?
Because they're the ones that created these devices in the first place and understand the mechanics of these devices and the way that the data is being transmitted back.
Okay,
so on the receiving point, they were able to then create the receiving point is where they send a sound wave down, and only the data would be recreated in a way where the shaman would be able to maintain whatever lie they were proposing in the first place.
So now you have to get into really complicated discussion because we have hundreds, if not thousands, of seismologists doing seismic experiments, right?
That are using a device that, you know what I mean? But
they also calibrate. They also calibrate this, right? Scientific devices are calibrated to make sure they're functioning correctly. So he would have to be able to switch on and switch off this sort of modes of functionality, right? Of these devices that he made when they are, either testing it on a control subject, right, to make sure that it's working properly, that it's showing reality to them, and when they're trying to measure the Earth, right? So when they're doing the control test, the calibration, he needs to switch it off and allow the device to function properly, so that they don't notice that. Oh,
well, their calibration might be an assumption, like they are assuming that they're calibrating the devices correctly based on the knowledge given to them previously on how to calibrate these devices.
Sure, right. Sure. Well, okay. Here's the thing. We can say that there's some kind of demigod, let's say Zeus, right? He is manipulating your eyes, right? Because he has some supernatural powers. Right, he's manipulating your eyes to hide from you the fact that there are cars going on a street, on a road, right? So thus, again, as I said, you should not cross roads.
But I'm not saying it's a demigod. I'm saying that it's human interference. Humans.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, I understand. The thing is that it's the same category of an objection, right? You're bringing first of all, something that I do not accept exists, like this shaman that created all seismological instruments, and that the shaman can interfere with the results of scientific investigation. I didn't grant you that. In a similar manner, right, I'm telling you, look, Adam, you should be skeptical of these things and not trust, these situations.
Well, not my own eyesight, but if I was to wear a pair of glasses, like when you put your hypothetical across to me that I, when I'm crossing the road, there may be cars there when I do not see cars there. Well, then I would have to be wearing a device made by a human being, or a device of some type that was made by a human being, like a pair of glasses of some sort, lenses of some sort, contact lenses, something that's interfering with my direct vision, like other than what I come into this world with.
Right, but do you believe that there are supernatural entities that exist?
No.
You don't? I thought you believed in the spider gods, don't you?
Well, that's not supernatural.
Oh, okay, interesting.
They're just a scaled measurement, like a scale model. So when
you don't believe in ghosts?
when we look at microscopic organisms, we would be a microscopic organism compared to the creatures that may exist in realms above us. Like if we were to scale ourselves to the point of being a microscopic organism to something else, then in that realm of whatever you wanted to call that, in that I would say realm of living, well then there may be creatures that are spider-like, and you might refer to them as spider gods, but I'd say that's more of a scaled measurement thing.
I see, okay.
And no,
so
I
you don't believe
in
in ghosts? You don't?
No.
Really? Okay.
No, I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay, so nothing supernatural. All right.
But I don't believe energy is transferred, and if energy doesn't dissipate, so I'm not too sure. Like somebody might refer to something as a ghost, but it might just be an energy that has not been transferred properly in some way or not whatnot. I can't tell you exactly how it would work. You know, you might be able to call it a ghost if you wanted to, but I would just say it may be remnants of an energy that was once here. It wasn't like, you know.
Sure. Well, okay, sure. If you don't believe that, that's fine. Do you drive a car? Any chance?
Do I drive a car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Now we can use this as an example because that is man-created, right? So I can levy the same objection you levy to this scientific data and say that there could be a human who has manipulated your car to make it stop braking, for example. Thus, you should not drive a car, right? But you say, well, that's ridiculous. I have no reason to think that it's happening. Right.
Well, no, like I would say that that's always a possibility that when I'm not around for my car, that somebody may tamper with my car. So I wouldn't say that I need to check it all the time because I have what would it be? Not faith, but you know, there are other things that can protect me from that knowledge of what the car sounded like previously, or you know, the way I interacted with it, and the feel I got for the car. If it feels differently, then I may assume that's my car's been tampered with, or some of the mechanics have changed within the car and whatnot. So then I would take it to somebody that has experience in checking that out, which we would call a mechanic, to ask him if anything is changed within certain parts that I noticed the difference within.
Now, why can't the scientists do the same things with these seismographs?
Well, I don't know because I haven't seen the tools they use to study the depths and the layers and whatnot. And
it's a machine. Unlike your car, right? Unlike your car, rather.
Similar to, well, I'd have to look into what devices they actually use. You know what I mean, and how they're accomplishing their sound waves, receiving the sound waves back and whatnot, and how biased their machine is, and how they calibrate their machines on the surface, and then come to an understanding that it's calibrated properly. That's what I would say. So I would have to research calibration of these devices, and I'd actually have to look into seismology and the way that they've come to their understanding of their research.
Right, but you're acknowledging that it is a possibility that they could do something similar to what you would do to alleviate the possibility of nefarious manipulation, right?
Yeah, but then because I would go to a mechanic, and they would then seismology. You would have to go to a more experienced seismologist if you're a seismologist yourself. Yeah, beg your pardon?
They would go to a technician to test the equipment.
Yeah, technician. So
right,
I'd have to look into it, but yeah, like that's what I'd say is how do they know that the technician has also received the similar knowledge that they have received, and only have a minute more, like their understanding is only a little bit more than what theirs is. So
you could say that about the mechanic too, can't you?
Yeah, obviously, and that's the point of, like, a mechanic is not fully understanding of everything about a car, every aspect of a car.
Sure. Right.
They may assume they are.
Right. And you also have to assume that
they're only human beings, you know what I mean? They're only human beings that are brought into the world, and then a mechanic at their highest level would be somebody that has been in that industry for years, and really they're only at a certain understanding of that information.
Right, but would you not agree that it's not a good reason to not drive a car merely because there's this possibility that somebody could have manipulated it?
No, I would say that like people drive cars every day and they're tampered with, though. So
sure, but you drive a car, right? And you do not stop yourself from driving a car because there's this possibility that somebody could have.
There's not the well. You're saying the same thing with seismologists. So you're saying that they shouldn't, like, they're not going to question their devices because of the concept of somebody else manipulating that, because they've been able to, say, predict or get what they feel is correct information from that device previously.
It's a bit different because they are actually assuming that their device could be malfunctioning, and all scientists do this. That's why they demand repeatability. And generally, the scientific community waits for the experiment to be repeated by some other group that is independent. So you have corroborating evidence from two different teams using two different equipments, right? So it's a bit stronger than even the car example that I gave you.
Yes, collaboration, right? Yeah.
Right. So, but do you not agree? Do you not see that it is quite reasonable for us to accept the data, at least on their face, until we have investigated it, perhaps find a flaw, accept it as it is, that it is showing the shape of the Earth, right?
I can understand what you're trying to propose, but that's based on the fact that these seismologists actually think that they're receiving correct information in the first place. So when I drive a car, I'm actually in the car itself and I'm driving the car, where these seismologists are assuming that they're receiving the correct information back from their devices that is being sent through a layer that nobody's ever penetrated before.
Right, and you can say the same thing about the
tunnel a million times, but these people have never driven through their tunnel. If you get that hypothetical.
Sure, but here's the thing: because your car also has instruments that you trust, the speedometer. Right?
Yep. That speedometer is only when it says that I'm going a certain miles per hour. Yes. That's based on information.
The wheels. Yeah, it's the rotation.
Yeah, but like it's speed. Like when we say 1 kilometer per hour, how can you define a kilometer?
Well, we have a measure for that. It's based on a meter, and the meter.
How can you define a meter? You know what I mean? A meter. You know, like how do you know that 1 centimeter is 1 centimeter?
Oh, it's arbitrary. We pick an object by which we
that's what I mean. That object is that. See, that's what I mean. Is that object is what defines that particular information. You know what I mean? Sure. And where they've never been able to actually penetrate this 11 kilometers, so they have had nothing to define it against, or compare it against.
Well, it doesn't matter what kind of values we use. It's, you know, we have measure of distance, we have measure of time. It doesn't matter that we pick an arbitrary measure, as long as it is consistent.
That's how I get to that. It's all arbitrary. So, you know, a 1 second is only based on something else that they've been able to base it off. Like,
well, does it matter? I mean, let's say that tomorrow we all decide that instead of an hour having 60 minutes,
that it has 100 minutes.
Or 100 minutes, right? Would that cause some kind of chaos if we successfully transition?
No.
We would just realize
it's a universal that may be used.
Sure, right. So it doesn't really matter. It's what is arbitrary there is the ultimate standard, so to speak, right? But as long as everybody knows that that's what it means, we all refer to that. It is not really arbitrary for daily use, and we know what it is when somebody says 1 hour or 1 kilometer per hour, right? But what I was talking to before is that your speedometer could be manipulated such as to show a higher speed, or no, a lower speed than you're actually going, and thus causing you to go over the speed limits and, you know, catching fines, right? But you would not again say that just because it is possible that somebody could have manipulated my speedometer, that I dare.
Something in regards to the ISS, because Epic Small G and I, we did some couple measurements on angles and stuff, and over a known distance, measuring the angles, we could figure out the height of the ISS, and it turned out to be 251 miles up, assuming the Earth is a sphere, but 233 miles up, assuming the Earth is flat. So even both ways, it's above 80,000 feet. So I'm kind of curious what he has to say to that. Yes.
Yeah, that's the estimate of what the ISS is at, though, right? 250 miles per above the surface. Yeah, and by the way, let anybody in the live feed, let me know if my mic is modulating or anything like that, because again, sometimes when I first enter, it doesn't work, but I reloaded just in case, so please let me know my sound quality. Spurs is welcome to come in. I don't know if I have him. Do I have him available or on his shit? I don't know if I got him to add him.
By the way, you sound fine in the live feed.
Are you listening?
Yeah, just checked.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait till Spurskismo pops up in the live feed. So, anyways, I'm playing WoW while I'm doing this, so please forgive me.
I was playing Super Meat Boy before, so.
Hey, Steve, if with your permission, I can add him because he actually pops up.
Go ahead. Yeah, okay. Do it, please. Again, though, I'm not Mr. Nice Guy. If he just asks a question, he has to answer it directly. If he wants to pull persecution porn shit, I'm fine with that too, because whatever.
Also, he can go fuck himself.
Why does he keep?
The thing that I just can't stand about Spurs is just his blatant, like, his arrogance. Like, ooh, I've destroyed your guys' model. You guys are all scared now, or some shit like that. It's kind of funny, but it's really annoying.
Well, I think he does that to troll, though. I honestly don't think that he even. I don't know. I mean, I can't say he doesn't believe it, but it's just at the point where people reach where they are so fundamentally flawed, they just reach and they want to start trolling, right? And we've seen it with him. We see it with Arcane Logos. They all do it. Tommy Hall. We're just used to it by now. They can't actually stand on the evidence, so they have to go, okay, well, I'm just might as well troll at this point. And they enjoy it, right? That's what they do. By the way, everybody cares. I got the new traits for my weapon. Yay. Well, so happy. You guys don't care, do you?
I'm curious to the type of weapon.
It is, my weapon is Ebon Chill. It's a two-hand staff.
Interesting. Which game?
World of Warcraft.
I tried to add him. For some reason, it keeps saying that you can't add, Sportschemo cannot be added to the Hangout. For some reason. I don't know.
Can you send me the link directly?
Yeah, I might be able to do that. Yeah.
But anyways, I was saying that in Red's after show, though, did you guys listen to Ronnie's hangout the other night where he
that I therefore should not drive my car.
Oh no, but I would say what I would say there is if I got pulled over and then the police officer said that I was exceeding a certain speed limit and I thought I wasn't because it was based on the speedometer. I was checking my speedometer and I was going the speed limit that I was apparently supposed to be going, and they pulled me over and said that I was exceeding that limit, then I would have cause to not drive that car until it got checked.
But you're saying you should, right, but you're sort of agreeing with me, because you are agreeing that unless we find contrary data that shows our data to be flawed, right, we should not assume that they are flawed. right? By that example, it's just saying that you will only think that your speedometer is showing a false value, if and only if somebody confirms it, right? Like a policeman with a radar.
Yeah, but also the speedometer is that, and the device that the police officer would be using to check my speed would be based off the same measurements that have been able to, how would I describe this? The experiment has been accomplished by the same device, where they haven't never exceeded this 11 kilometers, so they're assuming that as an assumption that the minerals or whatever it is going to react the same way, whereas speed has already been determined, and the devices that are determining this speed are all based off that determination of it. So, and we've been able to verify.
That worldview quickly breaks down into kind of a social Darwinistic, violent, brutal culture.
Mm-hmm. By the way, who's the moderator in here?
God, there is none, really.
Oh, okay. Well, just to let you guys know, I have certain trolls that follow me from room to room, so don't be surprised if they show up here.
So, Amy, you're a flat Earth believer?
Am I a No, I'm not. No.
No, you believe in the globe still.
I see no good reason to believe in a flat Earth.
Have you researched it?
I've read a little on it, and I haven't found anything compelling.
So, Dawkins, you said that the Bible is your final authority, as well it is my final authority, and the Bible is showing us that it is flat, stationary, and closed. So that doesn't.
Well, could you show me? Could you show me where that is?
Well,
it says that we're covered by a firmament. It doesn't really, and a dome. It doesn't really.
It says God stretched out a circle. Stretch open your hand and then ball up your hand.
Stationary. It doesn't really say square and stationary.
They said, "Oh, then they left behind some Bibles and said, yeah, we're the men of God." And then slowly over time,
so
they destroyed
you don't have an answer to my question, do you?
They twisted.
You don't have an answer to my question.
I'm telling you my observation.
You're trolling right now, so I'm gonna continue the conversation with others. I tried to be reasonable, but now you're
No, I'm just telling you my observation, right? And you're not accepting reality. You're not accepting history.
No. What I'm gonna do is you're not even answering cogently. So I'm just gonna focus on the other people in the room, and I'm gonna turn your microphone down.
I wanna just try and hopefully maybe take what I just heard and put it into something useful. So
no, I wouldn't. No, Robbie, don't waste your time. He's trolling.
His name was.
I asked him a question. He attacked and rejected the Bible, which is fine. But he's presupposing that he has the capacity to make accurate observations and accurate evaluations. I asked him what would be the basis in his worldview, and all I got back was trolling.
It was a double blind study.
Tommy, Robbie, if you think attempting to pursue an intelligent conversation with him right now in the future, you're not going to get it. He's a troll.
You're a noob.
This is what internet trolls do.
You are a noob. And what you are to me is something that you will
trolls necessarily follow you. I think that you just bring the troll out in people.
Well,
I think you're argumentative.
By calling me a troll, you cannot ignore history. By saying I'm a troll,
Tiffany,
like you're passive, argumentative or something.
Reality
no,
still exists.
I'm not being argumentative. I'm asking very cogent questions about people's worldviews.
Oh my God! If this is a flat Earth thing now, I would love to talk
I'll be right back.
One book, and you think you know everything from one book.
Talk about flat Earth. What up?
Written by men, and you think it's the word of God. Oh my God, you fucking lunatics. Oh wait, lunatics are Muslims.
So, hey Dawkins, I just wanted to let you know that you can do your own research, but there's plenty of verses that show us a flat, stationary, enclosed Earth. And just let it, you know, God's witness will bear witness with your witness. And so,
if you read the Bible, if you actually read the Bible,
I just challenge you to do that.
I challenge you to read the Bible. I challenge you to actually read the Bible instead of watching YouTube videos, because guess what? The Bible says the Earth hangs as a sphere. What Psalms does it say that the Earth hangs as a sphere?
Listen,
tell me.
God has stretched out a circle. Are you asking me a question? Can I please talk? God stretched out a circle. Do me a favor. Stretch out your hand. Now ball it up. So how, again, did God stretch out a ball?
You give me an answer with a question. Where in Psalms does it say that the Earth hangs as a sphere? Now you're going to put out some cognitive dissonance.
That's because it's on pillars. That's because it's on pillars.
No, it's not on pillars.
Foundation. Yes, Jesus is our foundation.
That's actually a parabolic statement saying that the pillars of knowledge hold up our concepts of the Earth.
Says the Earth is immovable. 67 verses say the sun moves.
Oh, have you ever heard of someone being called a pillar of society? Are they holding up society? There's people underneath society holding it up.
Yeah, I think God knows what he means when he uses the word pillar.
Do you understand what a metaphor is?
Yes, I do. And that's how I wrapped my head around the globe. That's how I wrapped my head around the globe. But when you actually look at it and take it for what it really means, God is clearly showing you. What is a glass-like permanent mean?
Pretty sure.
Pretty solid glass-like to me. I mean, what do you get Van Allen radiation belt out of solid glass-like?
Since you reject certain supernatural accounts in the Bible, I'm asking you, is it your view that only the material exists?
Counselor, didn't you just talk about presuppositions? And
they don't care about your guys' egos. Who cares about your guys' egos? Take your egos and leave the room. We want to talk about the flat Earth.
That's a point.
The flat Earth.
What's your opinion on
agree with me that it's flat? That's fine. Let's talk about it. Or talk
I don't see any reason to accept the flat Earth claims.
What about the biblical angle? The circle of the earth, I think, is the phrase.
Exactly.
Right. What about that, Jeremy?
Well, do you think that indicate? You don't think that? Or how do you interpret that so that it doesn't mean a flat earth?
Yeah, how do you stretch out a ball?
Because when you look back at, for example, the ancient Greeks using mathematics and geometry, they were able to figure out the circumference of the Earth with very high accuracy.
I thought the
And
Bible
so
was your
it's not
final.
surprising.
I don't care about those
It's not surprising that the ancient Hebrews and other people groups would have concluded that the Earth was spherical in nature, given that they would see the moon, they would see the sun, and its spherical nature. So when the passage in Isaiah refers to the circle of the Earth, that's a strong suggestion that at least that particular author was referring to the Earth being a type of a sphere. Is it absolute proof? No, but there are really no good reasons to believe that
Dawkins,
the
how do you
Earth
wrap
is
your head
flat.
around this? How do you wrap your head around this? If we are God's footstool, the Earth, and His throne is in the heaven above, and the Earth is supposedly spinning and traveling around the sun at 666,000 miles per hour, so that makes God orbiting the sun too. How do you wrap your head around that? With the Bible being your final authority?
Well, Tiffany, the answer to your question is that in all languages, and that includes biblical Hebrew, authors use what are known as idiomatic expression. Human beings do not use only literal expressions. They use literal and idiomatic expressions to describe things.
So you're saying that the Bible is your final authority, but you don't
And so when we read certain statements in the Old Testament and the New Testament, if one approaches it in terms of what we would call wooden literalism, you'll misconstrue what is the idiomatic expression intended by the author.
The sun wasn't even made until the fourth day, so how is it the center of the universe, and how is the Earth
Tiffany,
orbiting?
Hank wanted to get in here. Why don't you give Hank a chance?
Why don't you shut up then? Because you've been the one that's been talking.
All right, well, Tiffany, I really don't want to have to turn your sound all the way down, but if you persist, I will.
How do you do it?
There's no moderation.
I love that passive aggressive threat.
No, it's not passive aggressive. There's no moderation. There's no moderation in the room.
We try and moderate ourselves. Please don't.
All right, I'll tell you what. Hank, Tiffany, and Ronnie, I'm going to be starting a new room. Okay?
I should be getting along with most. I should be getting along with
I'm going to start a room where every person can speak without trolling.
I dare you.
Well, Tiffany, just let Hank get his question in, please, just so we can move the conversation on.
Just don't pick on Isaiah, all right? Just don't pick on Isaiah.
Okay, Hank,
don't pick on his bald head, okay?
Go ahead, Hank.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say, Tiffany, I'm on your side. I'm a Bible literalist and a flat earther. All I was trying to say was that the gentleman that's going to start his own room was saying that it was an idiom. And in fact, Isaiah